Hey guys, and welcome to Little Blackbird 91. We're having one of those great conversations again. Jeezy and Jeannie Mai are going through their issues once more again, and we are having a conversation about the recent allegations. Well, apparently Jeezy has been cheating. He's been in them streets, apparently, and according to their prenup, any sexual, emotional breach of their vows could result in a massive, hefty fine. So I thought let's have a little conversation about not just Jeezy and Jeannie alone, but about relationships and about marriage, and because obviously these two are now going through a divorce process. It's quite a painful situation to go through. As much as we get to see how crazy it is with Jeannie and with Jeezy as well, I think we can get some good perspective and some ideas in terms of from Jay yourself as well about some of the process and how difficult it can be for the parties involved as well. So let's have a good conversation today for the next half an hour to an hour, depending on how we go. And hopefully we're able to help some people on the show as well. But let's keep it cute, keep it classy in the chat, and by all means, choose your side because I know you guys will, or you ladies will. So we're gonna have a real good conversation going forward. But I'm not doing it alone. I'm joined by Jay. If you've seen him on my channel a few times as well, I believe Sean will be here in a few minutes as well to give us their perspectives. Indeedy. But Jay, let's jump into this, man. I mean, what's your opening thoughts? I know you read a little bit about the case and a little bit in terms of what's going on at the moment. Allegedly, again, we speak because not everything's always confirmed. But what was your thoughts according to this Jeannie Mai and Jeezy situation?
Do you know what? I'm thinking whoever her lawyers were, they were brilliant. They were absolutely because this is unusual. It actually shows the times that we live in today. So maybe it should be normal, but historically this is unusual. No one had to really think about emotional cheating or anything like that. The provisions were always about physical cheating if you could prove it in the first place. But the fact that's in there, the question is, did she have inkling? Was there an occasion that happened, before he proposed or before they got married, before he was drafted, that she had to address it as a warning to him? Or is just her understanding what times that we live in? What someone like Jeezy, it could be anyone to be honest with you, but what someone like Jeezy is capable of doing, who's going to go into his DMs, what type of people, what type of women he's still connected to. Yeah, I just think her lawyers are brilliant because it's literally put Jeezy in a can't win situation. It's if he has done something, it's either okay, let's go through with a prenup, but something may be exposed, or it could just be a threat, but at the same time, he doesn't know what can be said, or or is he going to settle out of court? We just see Diddy within less than 24 hours, he settled because what was going to come his way was going to be absolutely madness. So yeah, I just think her lawyers did brilliantly. Just goes to show, whether you're male or female, it just goes to show how to respond to a prenup properly. I'm actually shocked he signed it. So it's either he was unaware or he genuinely believed he wasn't going to come foul of, some of the clauses. But I think it's brilliant. I think it's brilliant. And, we all pray that he didn't, end up doing some of those things. But some of the ambiguous wording is kind of dangerous. So that's why for me, it's a bit silly. Because it's a contract, so you need to clear certain things up. What does A actually mean? What does B actually mean? It's a proper contract. So, yeah, to me, you shot yourself in the foot because there are certain things, as we know as men, that women especially can interpret in the way that they want for their benefit. So, I just think in this situation, yeah, I don't know what he's going to do. I don't know how he's going to respond, but let's wait and see.
Yeah, listen, I mean, look, we're in 2023, new age, and in all honesty, I think the key thing here about the situation is that this is a different type of prenup that we haven't seen. I haven't seen anyway publicly in terms of people being involved. Where they involve emotional cheating and all that kind of stuff involved in it as well. Usually don't usually get that. And I'll get the thing as well to read it out to you guys. But usually don't usually get that. But actually, it is a reflection of the times. They involved social media as well. They involved, DMs and stuff like that in the actual prenup. And I think, to be honest, if any woman's going to sign a prenup, should be involved in any prenup. And any man who involves himself in a prenup should also do it. What I would say is this opens the door for some craziness. Because I think previously when we talk about cheating in terms of it being physical cheating, I think once we start seeing it being open to emotional cheating, let me just put my misogynistic hat on potentially because they're going to call me that, right? I think women are going to be in a lot more trouble than we are. And I say that because we tend to do the physical a lot of times and we get caught because we're dumb. But the women too, we're not cheating by ourselves. I'm just gonna be honest with you. We're not cheating by ourselves. Okay, so that's what I'm trying to say. Like, it opens the door up to a very wide thing. But specifically about Jeannie and Jeezy, if you've got a track record of not being faithful, you probably shouldn't have put that in. You probably shouldn't have signed a prenup knowing that you might fail it. You got what I'm saying to you? Like, you probably shouldn't have put that in there because you potentially might not fulfill it. But I think that's great. I think that's a great way to go about it because I think that does help solve I don't want to say solve, but it puts a preventive measure in there for a lot of people who, who are usually unfaithful or have some kind of crazy behavior. And I think it's a part of like a penalty as a consequence for your behavior. It's no longer free. You can't just do this and get away with it anymore. And I think that prenup was there. It's well and clear. Now, of course, the wording on the prenup is paragraph 8, they said. And it's very, it can be interpreted. That's what I would say. It can be interpreted because depending on what you feel is, suggestive language and part of it, right? That's going to definitely be contested in some shape or form. Especially if you've been in a relationship before, you know that certain things can be read in a particular way. You know that certain things can be taken a particular way. And that sets up a whole situation, like I said, about who can prove that this was being suggested on something saying. So that's also intriguing to see that point of view. Go for it, Jay. I've opened to you.
Yeah, thanks, bro. Yeah, and you said it, man. This. I mean, I was listening to someone talk about it, and they was talking about work wives and work husbands, and with the ambiguity of the emotional aspect. You can even emotionally express to anybody, even your family, that causes them to, I guess, look at you differently. It causes an emotional reaction that could be interpreted as something that could break the prenup, especially if that person feels aggrieved. So this is crazy, and I agree with you, bro. It really does open up a can of worms. It really does. And I guess she probably didn't think it like that, but we also have to remember that this prenup also, or that clause also applies to her. She can't emotionally cheat herself and then think she's going to get away with it when it comes to the prenup. Of course, there are things that need to go both ways. So she has to be clean. So if he is able to find some sort of dirt on her as well, the judge ain't going to ignore that. He's going to address it. And in fact, let me just even start here to give context to some people who have never been divorced or going through this process, right? I'm divorced, right? And although my process was one of the easiest things I've ever dealt with in my life, I know I'm a rarity, complete rarity, because I've seen people break down, women and men completely break down, want to self-delete themselves, they can't even recover, especially financially. And this is what this situation is. It's, if when one party feels aggrieved or one party feels hurt, they're just like, okay, well, I want to go for those low blows. So as Kojo was mentioning, those things that we just move past in our relationships, those things that maybe wasn't a big deal then, or those things that were big deals, but we was able to deal with it. Now they're gonna come up. Now people are gonna be thrown under the bus. Now people are really gonna go for those low blows just to get what they want, and it's just part of the process, unfortunately. And it's easy to say, pay attention to who you're with, pay attention to who you marry, but in fact, it was a dentist, a consultant that said this to me one day when he wanted me to sign something. He said to me, when people get angry, people change. So all those promises, all of those, you know, those, oh yeah, we're okay, you know, all this love, it goes out the window when people are angry and they feel wronged again. So to me, this is what we're seeing. You know, we all know the divorce wasn't out the blue, but quite clearly she's not the one that wanted to go through with it. Since then, she's obviously sat down, thought about a lot, talked to people, probably talked to him, and she's probably thinking, nah, I'm not gonna have this. I'm gonna get what I'm due. So if you hurt me, I'm gonna hurt you.
Good point. Can't lie to you. It's a good point. I'm gonna put a little bit of what they said it was. So TMZ kind of put their thing up on there. So I'll just quickly read the part where it pertains to. So this is the part where it pertains to. They were saying that on TMZ that, but it even gets more pointed. So it goes, why further shows that the court should enforce paragraph 8 of the prenuptial agreement regarding infidelity, which provides in pertinent part that in the event that either party engages in sexual relations, which is quite clear cut, an emotional relationship, I still think that's quite clear cut, or is emotionally or sexually suggestive in communication with a third party via all forms of electric communication. This is the part where it got a little bit tricky. That part there is a part of the suggestiveness. You know, emotionally, if you're liking big butts, the same girl liking her big butt photo, is that you suggestively like, you know, it could easily be taken down a route. So your likes and your mentions could be quickly, you know, including but not limited to texting, sexting, FaceTiming, social media, and or direct messages shall result in significant financial penalty upon the adulterous party. It is very, very open. And, you know, I'll be honest with you, you know, it could easily on anybody's side, you know, be a situation, right? Because that emotionally part, that or emotionally suggestive in communication can easily go somewhere. You know what I mean? So, you know, I mean, listen, if I say a bar, you know, oh, you're looking pretty today to a colleague, that could be seen as me being suggestive if someone deems it as, you know what I mean? So it's quite an open paragraph 8. It's quite open. It leaves it for very much openness in that respect. So that's a lot. I don't know. That's a, you know, FaceTiming, social media, and you know, the direct messages. Yeah, we leaving that open at that point. You know, what's your thoughts, Jay?
I just want to say this. I'm seeing the comments as well, right? We obviously still don't know from the moment they married what's actually happened in regards to this particular clause. And for those who haven't read it, it also goes on to say, or she's reminding him that if he deletes any evidence, he's already breaking the agreement just by doing that. And they're now going to go into a fact-finding mission. So it doesn't actually mean that she's actually has something solid at the moment. It could be something that someone told her. It could just be speculation. It could be something that she's noticed, you know, over these past couple of months. So of course we're reading it and it's always going to be sensationalized. It's, you know, it's always going to be, you know, saying something like that is always going to be, you know, blown, but we still don't know, you know. So I can't say he has done anything, but what I'm going to say 100%, if this was her first husband, those clauses won't be in there. I think this is very specific to the type of man that Jeezy is and the access that he has to women and just to the world, which I understand. And that's what I said in the beginning. It's very smart of her lawyers because she's addressing, he may not physically cheat, but what is he likely to do? What are things that maybe I don't like? What are things that I've probably experienced? What are things that are going to come with being with this type of man? So, yeah, that's what I think is brilliant, man. But again, let's see how Jeezy responds because I'm actually interested. Like, I've never seen this type of back and forth before, you know. So usually people just settle, you know, or they might say, okay, let's take it to court, let's bring out the lies. But at the moment, she hasn't accused him of anything. She's just said there are certain things that you may not want out there, and you better settle before I do that, and I invoke certain clauses. So, that could be a bluff. We don't know, but let's see.
There's a video I want to play for you guys as well, so I'm gonna put it up on the screen because
on her.
apparently the best friend saying that Jeezy's not loyal to anybody. He believes the particular things. So let's just quickly watch this quickly. And then,
Easy, you're not a real nigga. You know why? Because your wife just came out and said you cheated on her. And I believe her, because I know you, nigga. I know you. And I could probably pick on who you cheated on with her with. Because a few bitches I know you still stay in contact with. I know, because they told me. I talked to them. You the same nigga. And I know this nigga. This nigga ain't never been loyal to shit. He wasn't even loyal to a dog he got. He had got a dog. He got that dog away in like 2 weeks to a bitch. He couldn't do. He's not loyal. It's all good. And T.I., I know that's your city, but you gotta move over. I mean, it's your city, but Jeannie said he owned half of it. So guess what? That half is about to go to her. It's about to be a Chinatown in Atlanta. Just wait on it. Korean barbecue everywhere. Jeezy.
I hope he's funny. I hope it's a joke. I don't know if this is serious or not, but I thought it was quite funny, the fact that he said that. But it just seems to be when a season of friends coming out and just saying stuff. I mean, your homie coming out and snitching on you. Listen, let me tell you something. I got some boys that are not loyal either, but I ain't snitching to the world. So it's just not my business to be snitching like that. But yeah, I don't know if I don't know if you want to say anything to that, bro.
I agree with you when it comes to him, right? But there's a thought going on in my head because of what he mentioned about people he still keeps in contact with. This is why we have the conversation about exes, about people from the past, especially because of who he is. This is why we have the conversation, because there can always be risky, unnecessary conversation. Even if it started from the other person, if you don't respond in the perfect way, that leaves no room for anyone to pull apart. I mean, if you're in a situation like this with the prenup, that response that you do give can be interpreted in any way. Even if he's laughing, even if he's joking, it doesn't matter. Like in those situations, male or female, you gotta shut it down. So, that's always gonna be a problem. Even if it's not physical cheating, I 100% understand still keeping in contact with certain people who might want to be in Jeannie Mai's position, or they just want. It may not even be to be married, but they may just want one night. It's something that's going to cause problems, and that one I can understand 1000%. There's going to be women in his life in the past that should not have any type of contact with him. So that's one thing I do understand.
Definitely hear that. Let me get Seaway wants to just have a little perspective. Yes, Seaway, talk to me.
Hey everyone. I don't have that much time because I'm going to watch the Beyonce movie. This is a tough one. I think this is going to turn on a few things. I, of course, do not practice family law, but I don't think you really need to kind of understand what's going on here. I think this is going to turn on a few things. One, when Jeezy and Jeannie can agree to when the end of the marriage was. I think that's kind of the little sneaky part of this that I didn't hear you guys talk about. I think what Jeannie is going to argue is that when were they in a bona fide state of separation? That is actually what I think is going to be a big issue here, because the way he kind of seemed like they were working it out, and then he just up and kind of filed, and I think she's going to say, hey, we're millionaires or 100,000aires, whatever Jeannie is, millionaire, right? Of course, we're living in multiple homes because we're doing multiple things in multiple cities, right? But we weren't separated. And so I wonder where I think Jeezy is saying, I didn't cheat. Maybe he did something after they were in an alleged state of separation, but I think that's going to be a point of contention. When were they actually separated? Because she felt blindsided. I think that's going to be an issue. Do I think she has something? I think to Jay's point, I do think she has something. I don't know if it's a smoking gun, but I believe she believes, and this is what I believe, that it's not normal for a person just to kind of give up on a marriage, to me, as quick as Jeezy did, unless there was either people in his ear, folks he was talking to. I'm not saying sleeping with, but he clearly had some type of distraction somewhere, is what she probably believes. And that's kind of what I believe. I don't know if it's like one distraction, two distractions, three or four, but I think something was going on that she's going to try to look into. And I think she's saying, you don't want me to find anything because that's not looking good for your little book, your PR tour, your press tour, your remodeled man, black men don't cheat, blah, 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 blah. This is not a good look. And I don't think he wants to get into the discovery of it all because, like Kojo said, a lot of people are not going to survive the discovery process of going through Instagram DMs, right? Especially if the court determines that this wasn't just a like of a booty model. This was literally somebody that may have encouraged you to leave your marriage. This was somebody that served as a distraction, a safe space, maybe a pick-me or two, right, in the DMs. If the court sees that, I don't think that looks good. So I've seen a lot of people debate. I don't think he would do all this. If he was cheating, he wouldn't do all this. Okay, you guys clearly don't know men. I know a lot of men that would do all this, and they would keep this lie up to the end. To the end. I think in his head, he's like, whatever she think I didn't do in this X amount of time, and it really wasn't that. I don't think he believes that he's lying, but I also don't think he wants to go through a discovery process. Digging up DMs, and no. And he cheated on all his other baby mamas, and he ain't been living right. He didn't just pop up 40 plus, all of a sudden he's a saint. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. His hands cannot be completely clean. So I wonder when they're both going to determine that they were separated, because I think that's going to have a lot to do with it. But yeah, I mean, this is kind of sad. This is what happens when divorces get ugly, and when both people don't want the divorce, it gets even worse. Because I don't think she really thought that this was going to end up like this, and because of that, I think it's going to get kind of nasty. I don't know what y'all think. Hey, Sean.
Well, it's interesting. Thank you, Tue. It's interesting because obviously the earlier information was that Mario Lopez and Jeannie were the one that originally was the conversational topic about who was cheating. But we didn't know about the paragraph 8 until now, when obviously the lawyer says to take a closer look at it. At a time when the rumor was Mario Lopez and Jeannie Mae, that was denied, but no one ever said anything about this paragraph in the court documents. So it's interesting now, the court documents now are being brought up, or at least I should say her lawyers bring it up actually in sense to review it as a counterclaim in the divorce. And I guess maybe from my perspective, I'm asking myself, what is the need to counterclaim? I don't get it. What was the need to counterclaim? And maybe one of you guys can tell me, I don't know. But in my head, I'm thinking to myself, what's the point of counterclaiming? Because unless his claim is going to reduce her stake in finances or whatever, they should just part their ways and go their own way, right? But that's my thought process. Yes, Jay, and then I'll get Sean to go.
Yeah, I'll just say it quickly, so Sean can go. My thoughts are quite simple. She's been poked through I'm not going to say it's a surprise, because, come on, it's not a surprise, but I see what you're saying. She didn't believe, or we believe that she didn't believe it was going to go this way. And I think even like a month or something before, or 2 months before, they was on holiday together. They was doing Happy Family. So I can understand how she feels on her side. So she could be poking back. But ultimately, when you look at things from a contractual level, they've only been married for 2 years. So, what has gone on in the house financially, that's going to give her 50%. That's going to give her 50%. How much is that going to be? Whereas this clause, significant financial penalty. I saw somewhere that said it's 1 mil or 1.5 mil. I don't know, because there's no verification at the moment. But this particular clause is most likely going to bring a lot more money than it would if they just continue to go through the standard procedures or whatever they agreed. So either way, it's a win-win situation. But if she just wants to really get him where it hurts, this is the way to do it.
You're muted, Coach. Are you saying something?
Sorry, I was saying Sean. My bad. I was saying Sean. Welcome to the
Oh,
conversation.
no worries.
What's your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I think Jeannie's going through the 5 stages of grief. And I know Jay was talking a little bit earlier about, his experience with divorce. And, mostly everybody knows I've been through it as well. And no matter how easy or how difficult the process is, everybody goes through the grief stages. And I think she's, first we saw it, it was like at the denial phase where she wanted to get back together. So she's in disbelief that it actually is happening, and she wants to try to pretend like it's not happening. That's why you see her posting the pictures of her and the baby, sending these love messages to Jeezy via the baby, because she's in denial of what's actually happening. And then she moves to the anger, and I think that's where we're kind of see now she's somewhere between anger and bargaining, right? Because from what my experience is, I didn't have I wouldn't say it was not contentious, but it wasn't like as bad as it could have been. I would say we got to a place where we agreed on things, and we kind of moved very seamlessly, through the process. But it still gets touchy. There's no divorce where the person is like, oh yeah, it's great, we shook hands. I mean, maybe somebody has that experience, but there's those little sticking points, and I think you get to those, and I think this is what one of those instances are, when you start to get evidence from the other side of saying like, hey, well, now that I'm dealing with the reality of this, well, I got this little thing, and what about this clause? And divorce attorneys, especially in a very public divorce like this, where you have people that have wealth, this is what they get paid to do. Divorce attorneys get in the mud. So I think this is what her attorney is doing, whether it's just painting a picture for the public, whether it's doing enough just to agitate him so that he will back down off of something else that maybe that she wants. Maybe she really wants to make a play for custody, so we're going to pull out this big item here, so this whole prenup that alleges that any type of affair, whether it's physical or emotional, I'm going to throw it out there. I may not have evidence, but I'm going to throw it out there because I know that just the mere potential of something being wrong is going to push you to go in another direction, right? On something that I really want. Because I think at the end of the day, this is my thought. I mean, I think everybody has said this. I just don't think he would have filed if he knew that there was some big affair that she could very easily drudge up, right? Now, my opinion, does it mean people don't do things like that all the time? Sure. I just don't see it. And I think that it's just, a tactic to get him to do something else on another side of the fence, to kind of push him in a direction. That's my thought.
Yeah, this all kind of started because of the child issue, and the custody and the control issue, that the paperwork that he filed about her being a gatekeeper to his relationship with the child. And I think that was the last poke that kind of sent her over the edge, because not only is this embarrassing, not only did she have a child that before she didn't even want to have a child, and now she's a single mom, meaning like doing it on her own, on her side by herself, right? Then he's filing this document that she's being a gatekeeper to his relationship with his daughter. He tried to dress it up and was like, oh, I don't believe she has malicious intent. But to answer your question, Kojo, that was the reason why she amended or filed this counterclaim, or whatever you want to call it, because now she's like, okay, between that and the Nia Long interview, I think it's been a bit too much. And so yes, I think we're about to get into a dirty game between those two. So if he didn't mess with the child and those issues, maybe we wouldn't be seeing this. But I think once he filed that, I think she's like, okay, well, now you want to play. We're gonna lay it out. Because honestly, she should have filed this if she was going to, after he played in everybody's face at that Nia Long interview, to be honest. So I think it was coming, and then he filed the paperwork about the daughter, and I think that kind of just sent her over the edge, is my opinion.
Appreciate it. Yeah, no, I mean, look, I'll be honest with you. I think think, that, like I said at the beginning, the wording is it's so loose on this paragraph 8 that she probably does have something on him. Shoot, she'd have something on all of us. You know what I'm saying? If she came to our after chats, we'd all be tied up. Okay, we'd all be divorced and have a penalty to pay because you say stuff and it can get taken a particular way. You know what I mean? Man, shoot, I say Sean has a nice beard, I'm gonna get taken down. You know what I mean? Like, at this point, and I think, if I'm honest with you, unless it's an emotional relationship which has several texts going through or several calls and stuff like that, I feel like it could be potential. And again, I'm not trying to defend it because, again, I'm not betting. I don't bet my stakes on these man them. I really can't. Every time I do, they let me down. So, but what I would say is, that, it is such a wide net that could be cast. It could be easy to get someone. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, so I'm wondering if it's one of those cases, if it's one of those things, and she wouldn't be out of her rights to not to do so because the prenup is open to be interpreted in a particular way. So, so unless it's generally someone he done had sex with, or he's been literally been sexually suggestive through text, I'm gonna say that, what, at that point anything can be interpreted any particular way, and I think. I mean, I'm not going to say I don't see him cheating, but I would say that it could be. I think it could be anything along these lines, as long as it fits that paragraph 8. That's what I would say. Yes, Jay.
And you know what? Even on what you're saying, just looking at the world that we live in today, again, it's not to say just men are capable of this, but I think the whole point of questioning who is that person you're talking to, who is that person in your DMs, or maybe I've heard this, oh, don't worry, it's so and so, don't worry about it. That could be the situation. That could simply be the situation, and her counterclaim could be simply, I need to find out the truth about the situation. I need to actually see the messages. Hence why the clause says, if you start deleting, you've also then cancelled the prenup. Because I think, okay, before I happy to agree, or before we're happy to go forward with anything, I need to make sure of these things. Because if you have crossed those boundaries, I'm going to get you. So that could be another scenario where she may not have anything properly solid, but in terms of things that he may have said to her, it could be a lie or it could be the truth, whatever the case may be. Even if it's just a conversation that it could be a person, then, as we mentioned earlier, that he shouldn't be speaking to. This is what this is now. Let's go and find out what really is going on, and then we'll take it from there. But before we get there, if there's anything you want to hide, then you make sure you set with me out of court.
You hear that, Sean?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that has me on her neck is the way she dealt with her ex-husband, and the way he also spoke about her, and now the way she also spoke about her own self and the issues that she's had tells me she's not somebody that's done a whole lot of changing. So I think they both got issues, and I guess I'm just not in a place where I'm like, oh, I'm rooting for her. She found, she's got him, because she's a mess. He's clearly a mess, right? So I think it's just a very unfortunate situation. And now they've got a daughter. So, I know some of the ladies are just rooting. Jeannie's going to get her money, and Jeezy's, he went outside his race and now he's going to get what he's deserved. I mean, listen, these are two people that are just got a lot of issues. And I don't feel, especially with these things, we start to pick a side and put a stake in the ground so early on, while we're still seeing evidence and things are still coming out. I'm gonna wait till all the dust settles. I'm not gonna, get dug in onto who I'm supporting, because I really don't support either one of them. But I definitely know, from everything that the husband has said publicly about her, it's not good. So that comes to tell me that she's not going to be the best mate in a marriage. And she also has admitted that she's got some issues to work on. So I can't say she's a prize.
Cole, you're on mute.
Sorry, I was saying, let me read this for you guys as well. Kind of obviously what kicked off the situation. So it says, according to court documents obtained by Radar Online, Jeezy has requested a hearing as part of the ongoing divorce.
Did it mute again?
I think it's Kojo's connection. You know, he's in Ghana, so sometimes it's a little spotty. I think he's frozen from what I see.
And guess while we wait for him to come back. So I haven't actually read this document. So can someone explain what was he talking about in this particular document?
Well, let's see. I read it, but that was a while ago. So they set an informal visitation schedule, initially agreed on that until the end of the year. But basically Jeezy is saying that schedule is not really working because Jeannie is kind of calling the shots. Oh no, it's gone. Jeezy, but I remember Jeannie is pretty much calling the shots with that visitation schedule and kind of making sure that everything that's going on is kind of running through her as kind of the backstop, or the kind of being like the plug, the what's the word, Sean? You know what I mean. She's the cog in the whole what is the phrase?
I don't know what you're trying to say. I wish I could help you.
Well,
all I think I saw was
running through
tension.
her. Yeah, everything is running through her. Their whole agreement is running through her, and he's basically saying he wants something more solidified, and he wants to reevaluate the schedule so many decisions don't have to go through her. That's what I got from the document. So, and I'm mad that I can't remember the phrase that the cog in the wheel. I think that's thank you. And there's another one. Yeah, so she's pretty much kind of the holdup with, and maybe he doesn't want all of his kind of custody or visitation arrangements to have to go through her and what she wants and how she sees fit. He probably wants something more kind of broken out, solidified, and reevaluated for the new year. Gatekeeper, yes. Thank you. So
thank you, Siwe. I mean, the way I read that, then is she being difficult? Because if someone gives you, okay, I'll use myself for example. My ex-wife was clear. Anytime I want to see my daughter, she's not gonna get in the way of that. Doesn't matter what day of the week it is, we'll make it work. And that's how it's been for the past 2 years. So I can only imagine if I went for the court to make a decision, that would simply be because she's most likely made that difficult, or our communication is difficult. So that's how I read that. So it is it's very interesting, because I'm thinking, what type of person is Jeannie Mai? Could she change in the situation to be more difficult? Yes. Could their communication be difficult? 100%. So I'll just think, okay, maybe this is best for the both of them, where the decision is taken out of their hands because maybe they just can't get along. Maybe they're just making things worse. That's actually interesting. But again, it gives context to what happens in divorce. As I said earlier, no matter who you're with, when these types of things happen, one or both parties can get mean.
Yeah, and I think, in an ideal world, right? And I'm sure this is what she's trying to do in the back of her head. You don't want to ever stop your kid from having a relationship with their father. But I think people are human, and I'm sure her hurt, surprise, and whatever she's going through with this whole situation is probably causing her not to be outright denying, because that's not what he alleges, but definitely probably making things a little bit confusing, difficult. Maybe she's not always the easiest person to deal with, because when you're hurt, angry, and frustrated, you don't always make the best decisions. And that's probably why he was like, hey, our agreement was more informal up into the new year, but with the way things are going and how ugly things are getting, it's probably best to have a formal agreement and make it more 50-50. Also, someone pointed out, when you have a 50-50 custody relationship, right, Usually child support and things like that aren't awarded if he's to have the kid 50% of the time. So that may also be something that she doesn't want, for for various reasons. I don't even know if he's going to be the main person taking care of the child. I don't know what the situation is, because it seems like she was the more hands-on caregiver up until this point. So I'm not sure what's going to happen if he is to request the child 50% of the time. What are the concerns? What are the issues there? Yeah. I just don't see this going well, guys. I think this is going to be an ugly situation for lots of different reasons. But I don't see this going well, especially with this child being this young and how blindsided I think she seems to feel about it. I see this getting a lot uglier than, it's going to get uglier before it gets better.
Yeah, listen, sorry, my internet went, so I have to use my phone. But I don't know if you guys have said it, but I thought it was a reasonable request on his behalf to request to have a structured time schedule. And if that has elicited a response to the point where I'm not saying she has, because I'm not sure I can link that 100%. But if that's elicited a response that she now wants to go and see that you've been cheating, that tells me this person's an unreasonable person. Right? That dragon she spoke about is coming out right now. Because if I ask you to have a structured time for our child, it's not about you, it's about our child. The child needs both the mother and the father, right? And, I think personally that and again, I'm putting it allegedly, if he did, he's put across that structured time schedule, it should be something that maybe needs to negotiate, because obviously maybe your schedule doesn't work with that 100%. Fine, let's mediate it, right? Let's mediate and make sure that we can get the right kind of schedule. But if we get to a point where I say let's schedule a time so we can make it effective for both of us, and your first response is to now counterclaim the petition and then go into a whole world, you know what? You must have thought I'm gonna expose you now because you're a cheating heir to that tells me you're unreasonable. And that goes into the whole stereotype of certain women using their children as weapons. And that's where Jeannie Mae would actually fall into, which is partly, again, then would fall into the play of what we were saying earlier on in our first live that we did a couple of months ago, where we were talking about the fact that Jeannie Mae's dragon, it be coming out when they want to come out. And maybe he saw some stuff that he didn't like. And this is now showing a part of it, where a part of that dragon on the tail end of things, that you're using it in this particular way, right? So for me personally, I'm like, personally, someone said it's war now. You can't be warring over your kids. That's the whole point. And I think this is where I'm saying about, I don't mind if he cheated, by all means, he cheated, right? And then you got to get him for what you get him for. I'm not going to argue about that. If he cheated, you get him what you want to get him for, right? But let's start where it started from, the kids situation. There's no such thing as war when it comes to the kids. It shouldn't be, because if you're both looking out for the interests of the kids, he didn't ask for primary. He's asking for joint and asking for a scheduled time. It's a sensible thing when you have two parents who are supposedly invested in that child, right? So whether she is angry or hurt by the situation, if there is no excuse, right? We don't give men excuses for that stuff. If men were on the other end of who are holding a child hostage, would say it's kidnapping and stuff like that, there were so many different words that would come out. Misogynist, kidnapper, narcissist, there were so many labels. But as soon as we talk about women and them now irrationally now trying to play a role where they want to hug the child, it's like she's angry, she's scorned. I don't give a care if you're scorned or angry. You're now keeping that child away from another parent who you decided to have kids with and sit down with. You know what I mean? So I'm saying, if again that is the case, and I don't agree with that 100%. But if he did cheat, nail his ass to the wall. Like I get that prenup, whatever you want to get into that. But this doesn't look right. You know what I'm saying? So. Personally. Yes,
I look at this last thing and I gotta head out. I mean, we don't know what the final straw was. We when you were gone, we did agree that this is a reasonable request on behalf of Jeezy to want set. We all agreed on that. But I don't know if this kid thing it was her final straw, or was it the Nia Long interview, or is it just a lot of things? Because even with the kid situation, we don't know what the issue is. You know, it may not be the issue about her wanting him to have time. Maybe it's the timing of it that they can't agree on. I mean, we don't know what is the actual issue, what took him to go to the court to actually ask for a solidified agreement. Regardless, the kids in a perfect world should not be casualties. We all can agree to that. The kids should not be casualties, right? The unfortunate thing is, though, is that when war is going on, and we see this going on in real life war, innocent bystanders are often casualties, and that is the problem. I'm not justifying it at all, but I think we're going through the normal stages of divorce. I hope they can get out of it soon, because you know, these kids, after a certain time, when you're 12 and 13 and your parents are still beefing and they've been beefing for 10 years, it's kind of like, but I do think it's normal in these early stages for the parents to have to get past their bitterness, anger, you know, hurt. They're human. And I see a lot of times we speak on these issues like people aren't human, saying we need to put the kids first. Yes, in a perfect world, you need to put the kids first. And if you're still doing this a year, 2 years down the line, you're going to need to let that hurt go. But I do think there's certain normal fade out that we're going to have to see with what's going on here. And I hope by the time the baby is old enough to know what the hell is going on, that they done figured this out and worked this out. But Jeezy has to know that he done up and left this lady with a baby who ain't even 2. It's going to get ugly. I just think it's going to get ugly. So we just gonna see.
No, listen, whilst I agree with that, I'm going to counter that. You're making excuses, T-Way. Let me tell you why, right? You are saying to us that you're almost condoning that it's a during war, so things can happen. If that is the case, I need the same energy every time when men and women deal with each other. That when we start saying that, well, it's war, so man them do what the man them do or do. We don't say that. We don't give men that grace. We really don't give men that grace. And that's what I'm trying to say. There should be no grace given here. It's about your kid. And that's what I'm trying to say to you. You have to understand that if it was war about the prenup, I'm not arguing that. If she's going to nail him to the wall, whether it was a text or whether it's petty, but it is what it is. I'm not going to war you about that. Because I think that sense, I understand that. That's pain. That's what you're feeling, right? But when it comes to the kid, and I can see that the women in the chat are kind of, you know, I understand that, you know, they want to defend their girl, and I hear it. But when it comes to the kid, and you now use a kid as a weapon, we have to look at your character as an issue. Because if in war, you can't see that in this war, you're not in war where you have to shoot everybody. Please, this is not a war where you're on the battlefield, right? And you don't know whether the kid's got a gun or not, right? This ain't that situation. You are in a divorce proceeding with the partner who's an adult, not the child. Now, sufficing that adult is not it's not a danger to the child. I need you to put your emotions aside, and I need you to understand that if this, for the best interest of the child, forget about what he did to me, then this child has to be put first. If you can't do that, then I have to look at your character and I have to look at your behavior, and then I do have to question whether you are a sensible person in that relationship or not, because it's in your anger. If I tell you, C-Way, to fuck off in my anger, right? People are going to question me like, rah, so when Coach gets angry, is that what you do? Wow, that's how you talk to your friend. That's how you really feel about them. In your anger, you're actually doing what you really feel like. So I can't give her a pass on the kid stuff. I'm not talking about the prenup stuff. The prenup stuff, if she want to nail him for the cheating, I'm all down with it. What I'm saying is this should not be happening. And the reason why I'm saying that is because so many men cry about this a lot of times when it comes to kids and the woman, how oftentimes women are manipulative. And right now, this situation has kind of proven what a lot of these men be saying. And we're going to be saying, well, it's war, so the men should kind of deal with it in a sense. No, they shouldn't just deal with it. You should be an adult about this situation. Your kid is first, and you should settle on this and get the schedule worked out. Simple as. You know what I mean? Simple as. That's all I'm saying. Everything else, shoot you want to shoot, go for it, you want to go for it, because that's war. But not when it comes to the kid. We can't do that.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying you're wrong. and maybe I am making a tad bit of excuses. But I think, and like some people in the chat said, I'm just coming from a point of just trying to keep it real about people's real feelings versus, you know, making excuses. And I can speak for myself. You know, I'm not sure, and I think I have good character. I think you guys can speak to my character for the most part. Even with how I think I have good character, I am not positive how I would react in this situation. So maybe that's me admitting that maybe I have aspects of my character that may not be the best. That's fine. I would admit to that because I'm telling you, I'm not positive how I would react if I was Jeannie in this situation. I would pray that I would be able to rise above and put my kid first, but I'm not going to sit on this platform and say that I can say that with 100%, especially if I'm feeling away, especially if you got on Nia Long's interview pissing me off. I'm not sure. So I'm not saying that's right. I'm just saying that's the truth. And I think a lot of people, you know, it's better to deal with that reality and try to move out of that state of anger than, you know, sticking with it for 10 years, because that's when it really just gets unacceptable. But a lot of people are dealing with that pain and they need to work their way through it and understand that's a normal feeling, but you can't sit there because it's not good for the baby. But it is a normal feeling. You just got to process it a little bit better because it's not fair to the babies at all. So, but I agree. I'm going to. Yeah.
Appreciate it. Go for Sean, yeah.
Yeah, I think that Black women are mad about the Jeezy Nia Long interview. I don't know how mad that's going to send Jeannie over the edge, because I don't know how much he really said. I mean, listen, I didn't study the interview. I watched it and I glazed over it. But, you know, and I watched your coverage of it, Kojo. I don't know how much he really said about her. I mean, there was some allusions toward it. I think Black women got upset because it gave that he's pandering now to Black women by putting Nia Long in this position to be his counselor on this podcast. But I don't know how much it would send Jeannie Mai over the edge. So I just think like she's getting, and I appreciate Seaway. Unfortunately, she, you know, had to go, but I do appreciate her for owning a piece of that, because that's what I'm seeing in the chat. You know, I'm seeing a little bit of some of the women, because they're putting themselves in Jeannie Mai's position. They're like, you know, kind of defending her. And even if she's right or she's wrong, it's like, we're going to stand beside her because she's a single mom now. She's not a traditional single mom. So we just need to stop. You know, she's not a single mom. And I think we just kind of need to like take our foot off the gas just a little bit. You know, we don't have to transpose ourselves into Jeannie Mai and have all this empathy for us. She's not a traditional single mom that's fighting for help and struggling and, you know, not to quote Puffy, you know, in these toxic times, but scrimping and scrambling, trying to take care of her child like many other single mothers are doing. So this is why I don't look. I feel bad because divorce is bad, and I know it as somebody who's been through it, but these people, they got a lot going on. And I'm really invested, but not so much, because they're going to figure it out. You know, they're going to drag each other through the mud a little bit. And it's unfortunate that this child is now stuck in the middle, and I've seen it. I didn't have children with my ex-wife, so we didn't have children to kind of go through, and we didn't have that family law component. But I can tell you that I've seen it. And way too many times, children get put in the mix, and I've seen it when women do it, and I've seen it when men do it as well. And it is just, I don't care if it's for 6 months, 6 minutes, 6 weeks, 6 years, whenever you don't have the child at the forefront, the child pays. And the child usually feels like they have to pick a side. And when you do that to your children, it's very selfish. It's very costly, because the kids are going to get you nowadays. They're going to drag you through therapy and years of stress, because these kids nowadays, they don't play. They're going to get you back. They're going to get their lick back on their parents, and they're going to point their finger right back at you. So I really think people need to stop and just sit down, look at the wall, slide down it when you're going through a divorce, but don't take your kids down that wall, because once you do that, the damage is in many instances irreparable.
There you go. Can I just add as well, because I see a lot of conversation about child support and things. When you go for joint custody, some people don't realize it's not what you think it is. The law sees 50-50 as a man could, well, it could just say, in this case, let's just say the man. A man can see his child or his children every 2 weeks for the weekend. You know, what's that? 4 days in a whole month. Whereas the woman in this sense can see the child for what, 5, 10, 15, 25 days, right? 20 days, sorry. I can do maths. Sorry. I can do maths, right? The law sees that as 50-50. So in those cases, there still will be child support paid. You know, there is no such thing as I'm going for 50-50 and there's no child support. That's not the way the court will deem it, because it will also be based on the primary parent's income. Jeannie May has, you know, she can look after her child. Let's be honest here. You know, she's made over $1 million by far, just on her time on the reel. So she can look after her child. That's why there's no mention of child support or anything in this. Whatever they've agreed, whatever's going on, they're happy with. This is just based on what she's going to get as a soon-to-be ex-wife. And it's come after, I guess now we can see numerous instances of where she feels that she's been poked. So she's either going to let things be, or she's going to say, before I let things be, I'm going to open up every door and every window and make sure things are what they are supposed to be, just to make sure that, you know, you're not a liar, just to make sure that I wasn't believing in something that wasn't the truth from the beginning. Because she's also going to peel back the veil on his finances, just to make sure everything that he put down is what actually has been going on during that time. So honestly, the way I think about this now, this is just someone who just wants to, I'm gonna put it lightly, but someone who just wants to make sure, probably someone who's even hoping that there's some issue that she finds, just to make sure that she gets everything that she feels she deserves from the situation. Because I will say this, understandably, she feels aggrieved, but that should never, under any circumstances, and there's no excuse for it, should be applied to how, you know, where the other party is not abusive, where the other party is not a danger, that anger should not be applied to your child, because you're only going to affect the child and you're going to make things worse. I'll be honest with you. You're just going to make things worse. You're just going to make things a lot more venomous. But as we know, in this situation, most of the time, the men are the scapegoats, right? The energy towards a man in this situation is very different. You know, and as you were highlighting, Coach, it's interesting, because when we try to say, you know, no, we're just trying to break things down and unbiased and just look at behavior, we get attacked as men. We get all the key words, you know, chucked at us. And it's like, no, we're not actually taking sides. We're just having an open conversation about what happens, which is fine in this sense. Let's have an open conversation about all the things that happen. But we need to be careful about giving someone excuses for, you know, for behavior that is going to be destructive, especially when, at least in court right now, the focus is actually on the prenuptial agreement, not on child custody. So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah, no, I mean, listen, look, at the end of the day as well, you know, in this situation, you know, I think, like I said, if we find that he's cheating, we, you know, Jeannie will nail him to the wall. It's that simple. And there's nothing I can do to defend him. You know what I mean? If he, you signed a prenup and you signed to the rules, and the rules say that you shouldn't be cheating. If you were cheating, then she gonna nail you to the wall. And there's nothing I can say about that, right? And I think that will be fair within, if you want to call it the love and the war situation. I think that she's well within her rights. You signed a contract, therefore contract must be enacted, and she has every right to do so. And I think that's 100% right. I think I was a little bit more harder on the child situation, because I think as men, you know, you do hear stories, especially, and look, you know, they cry on the other side of the internet a lot, but there's some real stories of people, especially fathers, going through really tumultuous times when it comes to trying to have visitation, have rights for kids, trying to see their children, you know, and we scream and say about you know, go to court and etc. etc. And I wanted to highlight that we are in court right now, and we've got a situation where someone is making it, quote unquote, you know, difficult potentially for a man to see his kids. And I'm saying that the suggestion was very sensible. Let's just structure our time so it makes it sensible. And actually, this is something that men actually come across. And I'm highlighting this because I think a lot of times when men do say this kind of stuff, it gets thrown to the wall. Like, well, you're not trying hard enough. You didn't go hard for your kids. You didn't do this. You didn't do that. And there are men who generally do go hard and try to make things work, and they're delayed. Maybe they don't get it stopped all the way. You know, the men that are tenacious and have enough money to get through, they go all the way, right? But there's a lot of periods of time where people go through where they have a lot of things. So that's why I was a little bit harder on that. I'm saying this is a highlighted behavior of, and quote unquote, manipulation. When you do that, it is manipulative to try and use your kid as a weapon in a situation when it should be that if Jeezy cheat on you, nail his ass. You know what I mean? Nail his ass. Like, go get him. You know what I mean? And so yeah, that's what I'd say in that respect. You know, so that's what I meant in that respect. It's that I don't want to reduce it, because we wouldn't reduce it for men. When men do this kind of stuff, we're able to clearly call them out as being manipulative, narcissist, and etc. Every word that extends. But I felt like in this situation, we might have skipped it a little bit because it's like, well, we understand, because she's in war, and, we understand because she's hurt. And it's like, that's why I was like, we ain't going to downplay it. But in all aspects, obviously with the G situation, we are going to find out in the next few weeks. If he has been cheating, they're going to forensically search everything. He going to find out.
I just want to add to that as well. And this is to the men in the chat, or even the ladies in the chat. If you have brothers, sons, people you care about, this is something to make them aware of. In situations like this, because, the conversation is, before we get back to the main point, the conversation would, like you're saying, Coach, about the men should try harder, show more passion, etc. You have to be careful of that. So the way Jeezy has gone about things, even though it may have poked Jeannie May, and to be honest, she may be being a bit difficult as a way to not just poke him back, but feel some sort of something from him, right? Sometimes that happens. A man still has to be careful about how he responds, because if he gets angry, if he says reckless things, if he just starts turning up and doing the most, that often is used against him in the court proceedings when it comes to custody. So this is something to, the men in the chat, or the women, if you've got brothers, sons, this is something to warn them about. Even though it's an unfortunate situation, try to go things about in a mature way, regardless of what the other party's doing, in a mature way, and go the right way about dealing with things. Simply because a lot of men in these circumstances, and some women too, struggle to gain any type of custody just because the other party is able to show, like, look, this person is like this person is like this. Even though that might not be the context, but at the end of the day, it's what you can show. And being in that environment, in a working environment, I've seen people generally delete texts to make it seem like a certain way. I've seen people interpret things in a certain way just to make it seem, just to make it seem like, I'm the victim here. So you just have to be careful. And that's why I kind of agree with you, Sean, right? Right now, we're seeing what's going on, but there isn't enough evidence to put heat on Jeezy right now. We literally don't know anything except what she said. At least with the Diddy situation, we've been hearing wild things for a very, very, very long time. That's what all of us, were shedding a tear for Cassie. With the Keke Palmer situation, we saw what was happening, at the time. We looked into things and saw, bruh, I even forgot the guy's name now, but bruh, there's something wrong with you, and obviously other things came out that made us say, okay, Keke, come on. With this situation, the changed man, the change this and that. I get that. A lot of people are liars. A lot of people are pretenders, but we don't know anything right now. We generally don't know anything. So that's why I'll keep saying, I am waiting to see what happens from here. What generally happens from here. Because if Jeezy settles, then that's a big sign of there's probably something that he didn't want to come out. That we can go to town. We can go to town with whatever you want to say. And it's probably going to come out in some shape or form anyway, right? But if he continues to go through this process, then we know that, he ain't got nothing to worry about. When he said, okay, I want to get a divorce, it's because he had this in mind. He knew, all right, what can she try and get me on? I ain't too worried about it. And the reason why there is a month difference between when it was verified and when it was served, usually in that case, it's because he may have had second thoughts. He may have said, okay, let me not do it yet. It's ready, but let me not do it yet. So to me, I really do pray and hope this doesn't become ugly, and it's looking like it's the first signs, especially because of how quickly things are happening. It's looking like it's the first signs in getting there. So I really do pray, especially for that child, because this is not what anyone needs.
And just to add to that, Jay, because you made me think about the whole Keke Palmer thing, right? Immediately. And again, I think this is why we have to just be very careful about putting a stake in the ground, right? And somebody said it in the comments, like they're kind of rumored to be back together, Keke and Darius, right? So, but everybody would. Then you heard that tape of her and her mother, and the way they were talking, wildness. And then it came out that she was also physically. She admitted to putting her hands on him, unprovoked. So before we just are so staunch that Jeannie is right and there's another single mother and we got to get on the bandwagon and get full behind Jeannie and nothing that Jeezy say, yeah, you know. Again, I'm not saying they're back together. I said it was rumored that they're back together, but they did make a statement. There is a statement that they want to work through things amicably. So that is public, right? So I say all that to say that before we kind of can, make these, statements of she's right and he's wrong and he's right and she's wrong, let's get the evidence. I think this tells us a little bit something about our own lives, right? Because I think when we hear stories from our friends or our family and they tell us something, we immediately just go in, oh yeah, I can't believe, but let's just get some more evidence. Let's hear the thing out. Let's look at it objectively and stop all the broad statements. Another single mother being made. Like, come on, guys, you can't. Like, we got to stop this. Jeannie Ma is not another single mother struggling. I think we just really need to stop that that whole narrative. And there are plenty. There's not the exception. Yes, are there some men out here that are trash, that aren't taking care of their their kids as men, but there's plenty of men that are active fathers in their children's lives, that do take care of their children, that care about their kids, that didn't just want to leave, but left because it was the right situation, right thing to do. So I just that's the thing that kind of, if anything, gets me going. It's like, let's just stop it. Let's stop the narrative. Stop talking about, oh, men just want to have a stream of, a single mother's lying around here. It takes two people to be in a relationship, and when a relationship breaks up, is sometimes in a lot of it needs to be broken up. And when a man leaves a woman, and when man leaves a woman, it's like he's leaving her single. But when women leave men, they have reasons, right? And I think that is what we're really touching on here. I think because Jeezy is the one that filed, it's agitating some women. It's getting y'all going. Because women hate when a man gets the quote unquote one up, whether he's right or whether he's wrong. I think once you hear a guy divorcing a woman, it's like, oh man, no, that can't be the case.
I think to add to that, man, I was reading the comments, I'm like, wow. But yeah, trauma is, and Codge is there eating the popcorn, reading the comments, laughing as well. I mean, trauma is deep, right? Trauma is deep, and what some people go through or have seen. And, it's seeing the response to it is crazy. And by the way, you're a single mother if you don't even have help from the man. You're a single mother doing it on your own. If the man is helping in some sort of capacity, then you're a co-parent. But we still understand there is a primary parent and there's a secondary, and the child is going to be with the primary parent most of the time, because you don't want to be uplifting your child literally every 2-3 days. That's inconvenient for the child. You want some sort of stability. That's why, at least when it comes to the court system, which some people replicate anyway, that there is a particular setup in terms of visitation. Every 2 weeks is the normal. I've seen my daughter, my youngest daughter, every weekend. My oldest daughter from a different mom actually lives with me. So we have to understand that, I'm just reading the comments here then. It's not a one-up, at least in my mind. Whoo! Based on what? Because all we know is that he's just divorced her. So based on what? And I'm not disagreeing. He could be. You know, things might be about to come out. And we're all going to be talking about it. But based on what? Because he divorced her? And he's saying, I don't like the way she's managing my visitation? Do you see our point? Do you see our point? When you put into context, it's like, come on, based on what? Like, and yeah. Anyway, that's me anyway.
No, but for real, before it erupts into a gender war, it's not a gender war. Look, we see both sides are crazy. Both men and women are crazy on this situation. I think we're asking for people to halt and just kind of slow it down. That's all we're asking for. I think on both sides, we want to see some slowdown on the narratives that immediately make people villains, right? So there are men out there, and Jeezy could potentially be that guy as well too, right? I didn't know his history. I have to read it a bit deeper, but apparently he's left other women as single mothers. That's probably why they're saying that, which is a fair result if that's the case. I haven't gone back into the and he's going to do a bit more research on him. So I think there is, I think there is understanding that both sides can have situations, that can have craziness involved in it. And Aisha said she's tired of me using both sides. But no, like there literally is two sides to every story, right? And I think what I'm trying to, especially I want to push in the next few months, and you've been seeing it with things, is people just, for us, all of us, including myself, just to slow it down a little bit, right? To not jump to the narratives. I am not defending Jeezy, by the way. If anything, my point was larger than Jeezy. It wasn't specific to Jeezy. It was specific to men, not to Jeezy. Jeezy himself, he could be doing mad things. So I don't know his history. He could be doing mad things. But what I do know is that information presented so far, I'm like, I can't defend him, but I also can't be condemning him either, right? But what I would say is that I think from a male perspective, and maybe from a woman's perspective, you guys have a different perspective, and we can see that in chat. From the male perspective, I think we also see that for instance, he's divorced Jeannie Mae, and I think the natural pushback from some ladies is that, well, he must, even though he's the one that's done it, he must have done something wrong. But then when the flip side is said, when women are the ones divorcing, I think that's what Sean was alluding to. There's a story, there's a reason, there's a way, and I think we started the tail end of this conversation going this direction because of the points that was a pushback about the kid situation. That's not all women, some. It wasn't all, it was just some. I wouldn't even say the larger majority, just some of the comments were just kind of alluding to the fact that there must be a reason. There's a thinking behind her not wanting to have the children. And I think what we were kind of saying is, before people go down that lane, just give us a bit of grace. Give the men the same kind of grace that you're giving the ladies, that same kind of grace as well, so we can also be blessed too, because the narrative doesn't get to give us grace in a lot of things as well. Miss Irene said I'm completely biased, and you're right. I am going to be biased. I'm a male, so I probably want to see it the same way you do, and it's actually probably for the best, so we can get a lot of different perspectives as well. You know what I mean? But it's interesting you mentioned Kiki. I don't even go there on this fine Sunday evening, but I don't know if we go there this fine Sunday evening. But Kiki's situation, she recently did. I don't know if you guys have seen. Have you not seen the video, recent one? She did it with Mr. Drew. Not the whole thing, but the snippet that she put up, because she basically highlighted that well, obviously now as well. Did she take away? I think she officially took away the case against. How do you call it? Jay, what do you call it? The case against what? How do you call it?
Well, she took away the claim that, what's his name? Darius. That's his name, isn't it? His name Darius, right? She took away what she was accusing him of, so it's no longer in court. So they've decided to, or this is the form of settling, but they decided to settle out of court amicably, in her words. So it's no longer in the court process, although they're probably going to give her a bit of time to make a final decision, but it's no longer there. So I mean, I guess this goes to show if things were that deep, if someone was that abusive, if you was that scared of them, you know, of being hurt again, would you do that? I mean, strange things happen. Some people are in that circumstance and do that anyway, or some people, I guess we realize it wasn't exactly what we all thought it was. But again, we don't know. We generally don't know.
I think this is what's funny is you know, in most instances, people can understand what I'm saying, right? On this channel. And I think Jason and Kojo got what I was saying, and even some other, included some other women in the channel. But because you don't like what I'm saying, oh, I'm not making any sense. I mean, I wasn't talking around in circles. I compared and contrasted two situations where we jumped to conclusions and we picked a side. And I don't think we should just pick a side. Now, you can accuse me of gaslighting. You can accuse me. I mean, yeah, I am. Maybe I'm gaslighting myself into thinking we can have a really good conversation with different perspectives and think it's not going to be carnage. You know, I'm being a little cheeky. But at the end of the day, we've seen these public profiles, these celebrity things play out, and we get so invested. And then evidence just starts to pile, and then it starts to be like we have to backtrack. So I'm just not willing and ready to just jump onto one side of the fence. And I think it is hilarious that we're painting this picture of Jeannie Mai as a struggling single mother when she's not that. Now, I do think there's some things that could be done better, and divorce is never a good thing. It's never a good thing. So that part I do agree with. And I just think we shouldn't use Jeannie. I'll end with this. I don't think we should use Jeannie and Jeezy's divorce and their custody woes as an example for what we should or shouldn't do in our own personal lives, because that's going to lead us down anywhere. We shouldn't make grand statements about throw marriage away, give 100% custody to men because now Jeezy wants custody of his daughter. Yeah, that part I think is just, let's not go that far. Let's not tip the scale so crazily that we are losing perspective and judging celebrities' lives and saying that this is what we should or shouldn't do.
I just want to add to the Kiki situation before you get back to the Jeannie. We have to remember that the restraining order was temporary. It wasn't permanent. So along that line, you know, instead of submitting more evidence, she said, you know what, we're gonna end this amicably, at least for now. Who knows what will happen? So either way, that temporary restraining order is coming off very, very, very soon. But let's see what happens. And at the end of the day, for us, you know, we all were very quick to back Kiki. We don't like violence, especially against women. So for us, we really do pray that, yeah, Kiki, you know, seeks the healing that she needs, but also Darius, you know, he needs to fix himself as a man and not be so emotionally reckless with his behavior. That's crazy to see. And, you know, we don't want that for Kiki. When it comes to the Jeannie Mai situation, it is a completely different situation. And there's a good point someone made when it comes to Jeezy having multiple baby mamas. Yeah, we get that. And there's always a question, why didn't you marry any of them? But at the same time, we're assuming that he walked away from all of them. You know, we always have to understand, did they walk away from him? Is there some sort of reason why they just couldn't be together that had nothing to do with, you know, his behavior, so to speak? We know and we don't know at the same time. And it does ask a question as to Jeannie Mai, considering this man's history, why did you marry him? We'd all ask that question. We'd all be watching. But he seemed to be someone who had changed, who understood how to love, who understood how to do things. Let's find out if that's really the case. You know, let's find out what Jeannie has to say, what she has to show, if it comes out, to really see whether this man was truly changed. Just because he is divorcing her, that doesn't mean that he hasn't changed. You know, it just means that he no longer wants to be in it, which, you know, he's entitled to do. I mean, Tia Mari came out and said she graduated from her marriage. No one batted an eyelid. You know, like, so obviously people can decide not to be in it anymore. But we just hope moving forward, for the child's sake, that this venom, regardless of, even if he did cheat, regardless of Jeannie Mai feels hurt, even if she did cheat herself, that it's the venom that we don't want to see. Because when it plays out, it gets crazy and it's just hurtful. We see it with the Tyree situation, you know, both mothers. You know, we see it there and we don't want that. You know, this is us trying to put the child first. So that's me, man.
Yeah, I mean, I personally would hold Jeezy accountable. I can't lie to you. If you've got several baby mothers, I don't care if they walked away from you. You are the problem because you're the common denominator. So if he has several baby mothers, I don't know how many he has. Maybe the audience can let me know how many he has. But if he has several baby mothers, I'm gonna hold him accountable and say, listen, you have several. You are the problem. Okay, and now you've added Jeannie Mai to the list. You are the problem. That doesn't mean that Jeannie Mai doesn't have accountability in a situation. Just means that if you got several, we're gonna look at you. You know what I mean? Because you chose her. And you chose somebody who also preferentially was speaking some type of way about black folks. Said some problematic statements about Asian financials within black communities. You've had warning. I can't sit here and defend Jeezy's choice of choosing Jeannie Mai. Okay, so he gonna have problems. He got 3. Yeah, we gonna have to hold him accountable. You know what I mean? I'm gonna hold him accountable personally. If you got 3, you are the problem. I don't care if you had him at 18, 16, 14, 12. I don't care if you came out the womb with a pregnant baby. Listen, at the end of the day, you are the common denominator, and you are the issue, right? So he's got 3 baby mothers. Yeah, he's got a problem. He's got a problem because he's choosing to impregnate women, and whilst impregnating these women, he is not doing due diligence. He's not, right? So Jeannie may have had a dragon, but you should have known she had a dragon. You knew she had a dragon. You ignored. I've said this already on my Jeezy accountable video. You knew she had a dragon. You knew she had whatever. But 3 baby mothers, yeah, I can't defend your ass. And we all know on this panel here, as boys, if your boy had 3 baby mothers, you might say to him that he cools his face, but behind his back, he's gonna be like, "This nigga have 3 baby mothers. He gonna suffer." Nah, I can't join him. We you know what I'm saying? So for me personally, that's where he has to be accountable. He has to look back over the situation of Jeannie Mai, and he can't come out and say, I'm a victim. There's no victim mentality here because you had 3, right? So you've had the first one, okay. Second one, ooh, 3? Yeah, you got to start looking at yourself and start asking some serious questions. What am I doing that's not working here? And why am I falling into such situations? At that point, I will look at your behavior differently. You know what I mean? I still think GD is a problem, but I'm gonna look at you differently too. You know what I mean? That's 3. So that's what I would say about his situation. Now, as for Kiki, the situation. Y'all know how I feel about the Kiki situation. Okay, now she's only, she's obviously trying to mediate without the courts. I wonder why. I am a little bit concerned as to why she decided to want to track back outside of the courts. I'm not saying he didn't beat her ass. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is I'm a little bit concerned as to why there was a backtrack. And it goes back to my original point that I was saying in my videos about the Kiki situation was that at the time, what I was concerned with is even myself, how quickly I jumped down the bandwagon when there were only stills. Because, I'm a person who wants to believe every victim. But I have to be honest, the person presented evidence of only stills. And we all jumped. And we all, let me just put myself first as a leader. I jumped first in their head first and was like, yeah, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? That doesn't mean he didn't do what she said. I'm not saying he didn't do that. But there should have been a waiting period of time also to see is there any more to the story. Because once more came to the story, once I tried to report as there was more to the story, people couldn't accept it. There was more to the story. They already committed to that, the story that Kiki's kind of told. And yet when the evidence out of her own mouth tells you that she hit him just because she didn't like what he was saying, there's nothing more to say to that. They're both abusers in the situation. Just that one is much stronger than the other when it comes to abuse. And so again, it's similar to that situation, but now obviously, it's a difficult situation with the Kiki situation because obviously, like I said, it's a very touchy subject and people have their sides, and I'm not mad at it because, like I said, I jumped down the bandwagon straight away. But I guess there may be more to the story than is always being said. So in that regard, I don't know if you guys had a thought on that, if you want to say.
I just want to say, because I don't know if some of the ladies here are new, but I don't want them leaving misunderstanding who we are as men, right? So for those in the chat who have seen us talk about things over over a very long time. Please let everyone know the type of men that we are, because when it came to Derek, there was no defending over Derek. We don't defend men just because, right? There was no defending over Derek. There was no defending over Darius at the time. There was no defending Diddy. You know, I was watching Kojo's video live where he had to take a break because tears were coming to his eyes, you know, and I quickly jumped on to be like, yo, this is a crazy situation, and we really do pray for Cassie. What we try to do is to look at every situation individually and think, okay, what's going on here? What seems like it's okay, that's likely. What doesn't seem likely? Do you know what? Do we have enough information? And it's quite simply with this Jeezy, you know, this Jeezy situation. Again, we're not saying he didn't cheat. We're not saying he didn't do anything. We just don't know anything right now, except for, you know, Jeannie's playing that card. So let's see what gets revealed, because now she's on a fact-finding mission. And if things get revealed that this man was exactly the same person that he's always been, then we're going to have a conversation and say, bruh, what are you doing? Like, you got some serious issues that is now proven in our face. Whereas right now we just have Jeannie stuff to discuss. Fine, cool. That's what happens, right? But this is just where we are. So we're willing to wait and see. All right, what's going to go on here? What is going to come out? You know, what are things that we can actually learn from as people? You know, what are things that we can actually discuss? And we just take it from there. But please don't misunderstand who we are as men. You know, just based on hot takes, just based on this conversation. We all have strong opinions. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we don't agree. Even with people in the chat, but we are all guys who really, you know, we all want people to be happy, want people to make the most healthiest decision, and we all understand that certain things that we discuss, especially as it pertains to women, can be very triggering. But please don't misunderstand the type of men that we are.
I just want to say something to the Kiki situation.
Yeah, no, I just would just reiterate what Jay shared and just add that nobody, including myself, is or will ever justify when a man puts his hand on a woman. I think that it is the worst possible thing you can do. You know, it is an ineffective way of handling conflict. And it definitely does make you less of a man when you feel like you need to use your hands to resolve conflict, especially when it's with a woman who in most instances is not nearly as strong as you are and incapable of defending herself, right? So I think that it's horrible, and I don't think we would ever justify him putting his hands on her or anybody doing that. So, you know, just so that I'm clear, you know, I don't care if it's another man and I'm trying to give a male perspective. This will never be my perspective or try to justify when a man hits a woman. You know, so I think it's wrong. And I think when the situation has gotten to that length, then you need to get out. You know, and when somebody is out of control, and it's a sign of being out of control, emotionally unregulated. And we talk a lot about that on this channel, is about having control over your emotions and being able to hold yourself even when presented with things that are bothersome. And I think sometimes in the chat we get into it, right? Or we might have a difference of opinion, but it never needs to rise to the level of disrespect, right? I think we can have a differing opinion. We can present different ways of thinking about things, but it doesn't need to go to the level of someone being out of control, you know, or one of us being up here out of control and losing it and going off. So, you know, I agree. You know, listen, sometimes we're just not going to have the same point of view. And just like Kojo said, it is a good thing, because if all I do is sit in a vacuum and listen to everybody that thinks like me, then I'm not learning. So just like we need to hear the ladies and the different, you know, perspectives, the same for us. So sometimes give us a chance, hear us out. You know, you may not always agree, but don't nail us to the cross. And we're not gaslighting you. We're not mansplaining. We're just trying to talk from a perspective and an opinion that might at sometimes be very different than yours.
100%, you know, 100%. So, and some good points we made there, you know what I mean? Some good points made there. So, yeah, I think that's pretty much the crux of the situation with old boy as well. And, you know, We'll definitely be back, I'm sure, again later on this week, discuss more issues. I don't know if anything else was pressing on my mind. I don't think there was anything more. But it was a topic I'll do it tomorrow. The topic I wanted to do tomorrow, because I was thinking about it. It's a wild topic. But I was literally thinking about this the other day, man, and I spoke to a friend about it. And I was saying, you know, that, and I put it on my Instagram story, and I was saying, do men tolerate certain women, or do they like certain women? And I have the thought because I was in my, you know, I've been thinking about a lot of things relationship wise and thinking about interactions I have with certain women. And I had a thought process. I was like, certain women elicit a response that if I have to do something for them, I don't mind doing it. I have no qualms, no questions. I'm not fighting it. I'm not counting the cost. And there are certain women, when they do certain stuff or ask me for certain stuff, I'm already thinking, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go there. I don't really want to, you know what I mean? But I will do it. And I was thinking about it because of Ready to Love. That's why, because Cam and Zadia. And in my head, I was like, yo, in my head, I've experienced certain situations where certain women, I deal with them and I want to help them. I want to serve. I want to da-da-da-da. And I was thinking about this the other day. I was with someone the other day and I hate planning stuff. Like, yo, you know, if you ask me to plan a date or planning stuff, it's my thing. But the girl asked me and I was like, all right, cool, bet. I was nervous about it because I don't like planning stuff. And I just started planning it. It wasn't even about it wasn't even just about the girl being necessarily pretty, but attraction is definitely a part of it. But I just automatically just wanted to start doing certain stuff for the person, start serving. And so I wanted to ask you guys, because whilst you're still here, do you know what I mean? I don't know, maybe it's a change of topic. I don't know if you've got time, but whilst you're still here, I don't know if you guys have ever experienced that situation where like certain women elicit different responses from you. Because I really was thinking about it. Like, one person was asking me for something, and I was getting annoyed. And I was like, don't ask me for something. I don't want to. But I did it anyway because I know that's, I guess, what I should do, but not necessarily because I wanted to do it. Do you get what I'm saying to you? I didn't feel like I wanted to do it. So I don't know if you guys ever felt like that. You can maybe potentially speak on that. You know what I'm saying? She'll look at me like, I'm about to start something mad. Yes, Jay.
I mean, I'll keep it short. I just think I think there's multiple angles we can take this conversation, right? But I just think certain women can soften men's hearts in different ways. And the reason why I say that is because there are women who, okay, let's just say you actually like someone low key, although you're not even anywhere close. I mean, you naturally are going to be more susceptible to doing certain things. You know, however, what I'm also going to lead to is sometimes you could like someone, sometimes you may not, sometimes you're just cool. But knowing how this woman is, maybe you think to yourself, do you know what? If I did this, this wouldn't be a good look. You know, if I did this, she may try and take the pee a lot, you know, try to take the mick. She might continue to ask me for things. She might try and use me. These things happen, you know, and women go through this all the time, you know, in terms of giving men certain things, and all of a sudden the man keeps on asking for more and more, to the point where it becomes an expectation, you know, which kind of spoils the fun out of doing things, you know. It spoils that I'm doing this because I want to, you know, when it gets to that. So I've been there where, you know, certain women ask for certain things. I'm like, cool, let's go. But other women do. I'm like, I ain't, you know, I ain't doing that, you know. And as men, I think sometimes we have to be wise, because sometimes doing certain things can also give the wrong impression. You know, it's the same thing with ladies, you know, doing things can give the wrong impression at times. So that's my thought process to that. I just think certain women soften a man's heart in different ways. You know, that could be based on what she does, based on her character, most importantly. You know, that's kind of the way I see it. Oh yeah, and yeah, if you're pretty as well, let's not pretend. Pretty privilege is a thing, so let's not pretend it.
Sean?
Yeah, I think there's two scenarios. I think one is it's the energy, right? So even if it's just somebody who you have a platonic relationship with, but they have good energy, we are more likely to bend and do the things that you ask. And somebody put it on, one of the ladies put it in the chat, and I think it was Jay, and then I think I saw some other people add on too. Did you demand or did you suggest? Because that's another thing. And Jay put it again. Thank you. Yeah, it's if you suggest something to us, I know I'm more likely to respond to a suggestion than an outright demand or request in most instances. So I think that goes a long way. And then I think the other thing is in relationships, it depends on how much we're invested. Will determine the level that we'll move. You know, and I know I've been in certain relationships and I'm just not invested. So that woman could ask me something that a woman that I was invested in, and I wouldn't think twice about doing it for the woman I was, but the woman I wasn't, it was going to be a hard no. And I think that's human nature more so than the man part, because women who are not invested in men, there's just like women who are invested in keeping a man in the friend zone, we will stay there in perpetuity. We're going to stay in that friend zone because you're invested in us staying there and in that position until maybe the slight chance you decide otherwise. But in a lot of instances, we're going to stay stuck there, which is why we so often avoid the friend zone, because we don't want to be stuck in friend zone purgatory. So I think, I know that there are plenty. There's some women. And every year I say, you know what? I don't want any more women friends. And then they will trickle in. And I'm like, I don't want... You're great, but it's a lot of work being a friend with a woman, because you have to manage it almost like a relationship that's not a relationship. So I don't want to do it, and I have some great, friends that are women that I've across, that I have, had over the years, and I wouldn't trade them for the world. But it's like, I'm seriously, hold me accountable, Kojo, and now you, Jay, as my brother. Please, I don't want any more. Not in 2024. I don't want any more, because it just becomes like a relationship. And I'm like, you have to understand the dynamics, and you have to anticipate how she's going to feel. You got to choose your words. I just don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. It's a lot of work. Yes, Jay, you and Jay are it. That's it. I'm telling you, I'm not taking no more new applications. Don't get your feelings hurt. Don't get upset. It's not, you could be as pretty as you want to be, but if all you want to be is friends, it's going to be a no. We're going to be friends from afar, a very far distance.
Can I give a scenario? Because I remember, Kojo, we spoke about something a while ago when it comes to this type of thing, but I guess what I want to say as well. I went out, so far, there was a particular female friend who asked us to go out, like, not just me, but another male friend, right? There was 3 of us. And again, it was her suggestion. She didn't say this to me, but while I was there waiting for her with one of my guys, he started saying, she was saying that she ain't got money and this and that. It's like, I ain't got money. But she said, let's just come here. What's going on? In my mind, what she's expecting is, for us to pay for the whole thing. And don't get me wrong, we both could. That wouldn't have been a thing. We finished the meal. And when it comes to paying, it's like, I'm fine. I'm cool. I could cover everyone. It's no problems, right? But what it kind of resolved in is her not paying. I don't know if you have this in America, but the service charge, right? But so we covered that, and she just paid for what she ordered. Now, the reason why I mentioned that is because my guy was quite annoyed, because it's like, don't have the expectation. Like, if we're going to do it, you know how we are as people. We're very, we are genuine, generous people. We will cover that. But when you're trying to orchestrate a situation and then come with excuses, that's where men can start, feeling that you're taking the mick. And there are certain expectations, and I'm purposely not making it a girlfriend situation, because that's like a different conversation. This is just a friend. So this is to the ladies, like, do you expect men who are your friends? I'm not saying men that, he really wants you or anything like that. No, genuine male friends to treat you in that sense like a partner where he covers everything. But I don't know what you guys think.
You asking the crowd, you asking me?
Everybody.
You know what? Can we just say that female friends are expensive? Let's be honest. Like, they are expensive mentally, emotionally, and financially. I love them, but they are, right? And they are because I feel like as men, my battery's about to die, let me get a charger. They are because sometimes we don't think about things in the same way they do. So the capacity that they have, we don't necessarily have, right? So I'm going to have to sit down and do it this way. But, you know, the capacity that they operate in, we don't necessarily operate in. As boys, for instance, you know what I mean? Like as men, I think there was the thing that was on my Insta the other day, which was about how men can organize to go out and eat food, and you know they will spend the whole day together and not plan it. Why can't they do that with their girls? And I was like, well, the reality of the situation is because when we don't put no effort into something, what men have found out to be is that women complain that we put no effort into it. For instance, if I call you Jay and Sean and say, let's just go to McDonald's and grab a quick, McFlurry, whatever, and just chill. I don't need to state what's going to happen the rest of the day. If we then finish the McFlurry and we say, let's go out, let's go here and do something else, right? It's unplanned. We just go and do it. We just vibe and we chill. And throughout the course of the day, there's probably going to be no chances we're going to argue. And when I say argue, I'm not talking about the debate that we have about who the best wrestler is or who the best fighter is or what football team or soccer team or American football team we support, whether we like fast runners or slow runners, athletics. We have those normal debates. As men, we have spirited debates. There is no chance, most times, there's very little, very quiet chance of us having an argument on that situation. But what we find out as men, and it's not that, I'm not blaming women, by the way, I'm just talking about the dynamics between men and women. As you mentioned, Sean, the high emotional aspect that comes into play when you're dealing with women can be very sometimes tasking. So when I want to go and eat an ice cream, I do not want a potential chance of there being an argument or being stressed about me not forgetting something, or maybe I didn't remember something, or maybe I said something and it got taken. I don't want that. I just want to go and eat ice cream and chill. Again, this is not an indictment against women or them being bad friends. No, not at all. We're saying dynamics between men and women, how it can be different for us as men, that when we're around each other, these things do happen because of the way that we think, right? And I'll give you an example. I was on Joe Budden's podcast the other day, and people were kind of mentioning about how it's a very guy-oriented to space. And what happens is when guys, it's a bit like being at work, right? If you're at work, you have to acclimatize to the women in the workplace. When you're in your boys' environment, I do not want to acclimatize to women's feelings and how they interpret stuff. I want to have a good old laugh. I want to say some stupid stuff as men, and I want it to stay between the men that we're saying some stupid stuff, right? Because that's how we're going to be. We laugh at dumb stuff. We take the mickey out of each other. We insult each other at points. You know, we do certain stuff like that are doing that. When you bring a woman into that space, right, you have to be very careful, right? Let's say, for instance, I say, Sean, your beard's looking a bit patchy. Or you say to me, Coach, your glass are wonky. I got to be careful of not saying that to a woman because, again, expressions of that can be taken in a particular way. So sometimes it can be difficult in those relationships, sometimes with men and women. That's what makes it tricky. Not saying it's not worthwhile. I'm saying that's what makes it tricky. I think having women in your circle is very much important. Absolutely, 100%. I've been blessed. Sean will tell you 100% himself. He's been blessed. And I'm sure Jay will tell you the same thing. Been blessed by women who are friends because they see things completely different to how I see things. But there is times where I'm just like, I don't want women in our space. I don't want to man them because I want to do some man them stuff. That sounds kind of wrong, so I'm going to put a pause on it. But I just want to be able to just vibe and chill. You know what I mean? Yeah. You get what I'm saying? So that's why sometimes I think in that case, you know. But yeah. I don't know if anyone else wants to say on that part. Someone said, do you ever pay for a male in company of men? That's why I said women are costly. That's my point. Women are costly. Right? Women are costly. And I'm not saying that women don't think about you. I'm not saying women don't ever pay. I'm not saying women don't ever do nice things for you. We're not saying that at all. We're just saying that dynamics in relationships, this can be, you know, sometimes I just want to be able to just chill. You know what I mean? Aries says a man knows what a man needs.
Aries, get out of here with that. That sounds Diddy-ish. Stop it.
Technically, I think it's Will Smith who even said it in the line. That's why.
Oh no.
Do you know what? I'll even give another scenario. This way ain't me, but we do know the person, especially you, Kojo. So I can't say the name. But what was it? 2 years ago, there was a big controversy with a particular comedian in the UK, who I think is in America now. He went out to Dubai with a whole bunch of people. I think it was some sort of event. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. And there was a particular influencer, of which some of you know, who was there. Now, for him, he was spending, he was doing what he was doing, but the way he puts it is that he was watching this particular woman who, I guess, presents herself as rich. I've never seen that, but I guess it's, I don't know what's going on in that world. Drinking his money, eating his money, and he was there getting angry. No, he didn't want her. They literally were just friends. There's nothing going on between them. In fact, he wanted a friend. And he went on a podcast and talked about the situation. But the way he talks about it was like, you're a pretender. You're not, you know, you ain't got no money. Like I understand he insulted her. You know, I mean, he didn't mention the name, but if you knew the situation, he insulted her. So I understood she had to respond, rightfully so. In her response, she defended herself, but also called him, court said, he's only complaining because he's a brokey. And if it was some of my guys back home, she's from a particular country, again, I'm not going to pull it out there, she's from a particular country, they will just spend anyway because men just love spending on women. So that's why I asked the question, because there's some women out there who do have the expectation, or if a man complains about it, they will resort to, he's broke, that's why, rather than, do you know what, let me pull my weight. So that's why I asked the question, because it is, okay, Maggie, you know how I'm talking about. Okay, well, I'm not saying no names, I'm just asking a question. That's all, you know. What about that type of scenario? Because sometimes it can be confusing for particular types of men as to why they say, no, I'm not going to do something, rather than, at the love of my own heart, I'm actually going to do this. I don't even know if you covered that, Coach. Oh, hold on.
I think he's frozen.
He's frozen. Yeah, I don't know if you covered.
Mention something down again a little bit there, my bad. Yeah, no. Yeah, and again, I think you're also you're kind of touching on something again, right? And again, it's not a complaint. Again, it's more of an understanding of relationship between men and women, right? That, and I think Sean, you said the word that I think Jay's actually breaking down, which is it ends up almost feeling at points in time like a relationship. This is why men surrender to their own male group friendships, because I don't want to spend all my time feeling like I'm in a relationship. No offense to ladies, I'm pretty much doing everything bar sex. This is like this on a real thing, because, and again, I'm not complaining about it. I'm more stating some of our relationships and how they are from men's perspective, right? That I'm doing everything I would be doing for a girlfriend. Right, so let's say, for instance, across the street, I make sure I'm on the right side of the street. If you're going into a shop to buy something, I'll buy it for you. You know what I mean? If we're going for a restaurant, I'm going to pay for it. If we're, you know what I'm saying, we have set dates sometimes, to come and chill and vibe and we do all the things you actually potentially end up doing for a girlfriend. And so sometimes what happens is, as a man, you just get to a point like, I don't want to do that stuff. I want to chill, right? I want to chill, but because you want to maintain the relationship, and again, we do get benefits from this aspect, right? We get emotional support. Right, we get a different perspective and a different view. If you've got a really good female friend as well, she will also return she'll bring a return to that as well, right? Now, some of you a little bit more than others, okay, all right? Y'all take the Jesus parable to the fullest. Some of you 30%, some of you 60, some of you 100-fold. But, depending on what friendship it is, you'll get those things as well, right? And they are what I'll call invaluable. It's hard to put tangible a price on that, right? But my wallet still is tangible, and it's telling me you're getting to a certain point where the money's running. You know what I mean? So even though it's untangible what you do, my wallet's telling me it's tangible. You know what I mean? So what I think sometimes that's why sometimes there can be struggles between men and women in friendships, because they can be like a little bit difficult. Where I see and maybe I'm going to be a bit more biased here again as well. So maybe you guys can chime in. Maybe it benefits me more when I start seeing women acclimatizing to the way that men normally operate, right? So, for instance, of course, I could pay for Sean's meal, but oftentimes it's not. You pay for yours, I pay for mine. You know what I mean? Like, I don't have to necessarily cover it. There's no expectation to. If I want to cover it, I'll cover it. If I don't want to cover it today, Sean's like, he's not gonna be like, "Cause you didn't cover my bill today." You know what I mean? Like, he ain't gonna think that. If I go with Jay and I go to dinner with him, Jay's gonna be like, "Did this guy cover my bill? Oh, he didn't cover my bill. My guy." He ain't thinking that, right? Every man comes to the table expecting that to come to fruition. Do you get what I'm saying to you? Like, that everyone's going to pay for their stuff, do their own stuff, handle their own stuff. And I think, so in that sense, when you get a woman friend who understands that, when you get a woman, oh man, when you get a female friend, and I'm saying a friend, I said a friend specifically, who understands that, I find it works better. She tends to understand the male psyche, right? So she tends to understand where we're coming from. So there's less of that expectation. Do you get what I'm saying? If you do cover it, it's like when I cover my man's bill. It's like, all right, cool, I appreciate it. Or if I buy something for you, all right, cool, still in it. Do you get what I'm saying to you? You know, I don't tell people what I've done for people. Do you know what I mean? That's not my kind of thing. So, but it's like that, you know. So yeah, it's interesting because those relationships the friendships do play out like sometimes you're in a relationship. So I definitely need that. But to go back onto my original point, which was, why is it that certain women, when you're dealing with them, elicit a response that you just want to do? Like you, and I'm not just talking about pretty privilege, because that for me is simping. That's completely different. If we're talking about simping, that's you trying to get the woman's attention. You're trying to do everything well. I'm talking about, I'm talking about, for instance, you don't feel. Jay said she always covers my bills, so we appreciate Jay. She's real random out here. But we always appreciate situation where you're with a lady, and she's naturally. She doesn't even have to say something too tough, but you want to do it for her. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about a simping aspect where you're trying to win her heart over and, at every cost to the fact that you're broken, still want to do it. I'm talking about just genuine kind of feel like you want to be able to do this. And this other woman, when they ask, it's just not running. It's just like,
I can give a scenario as well. For me, this scenario was simply based off, I thought someone was taking a mick and relying on me too much. So when I was younger, so I got two female friends. One had a baby when she was 17. The guy was in jail, typical story. Sometimes I used to help her with her baby food and stuff. Always felt appreciation. She's still my friend to this day. No issues, no qualms. There was another woman, same type of typical things. Sometimes I used to go and see her because our daughters was the same age. As soon as the first time I went to go and buy her baby food and stuff, and she was giving me the whole sob story, I bought it. She started calling me for things, started trying to attach herself to me. I said, what is this girl doing? It makes no sense to me. But then I started to realize, okay, I know what's going on here. And she used to try, and then she went to another country because that's where she's from. She used to call me up, say, can I do this? I could have done it, but every single time I said, no, sorry, I can't do it. I can't do it. But it was simply because, one, appreciation, and I felt that she was using me. Now, she will swear blind, no, we're just friends, I just really needed help. But for myself, I felt she was using me. That's why I quickly shut everything down. So that's my particular story, an example of someone without any sort of expectation for anything. There was, even if she said she liked me, I would have said, stop it, like somebody else. There was nothing that I wanted to go on. And if anything, she had also been involved with some of my friends, right? It was just a genuine, like, this person's cool. But for me, it was just quite simply, I don't mind doing certain things. What I want is obviously the appreciation, but I don't want you trying to, what's the word for America? Turn me into a trick. Is that the word? Sean? Yeah? Okay, yeah. Me, as a man, absolutely, you're never going to get away with that when it comes to me. Never.
Yeah, Jay, like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it's a defect or if it's just something that's in me, but I will never say yes to anybody. I don't care how much I like you, how much I love you, woman, man, I don't care. I'm never gonna say. You're gonna hear a no from me. And you know what? It's something that I think I've learned along the way is when you give somebody too much access, too many yeses, people don't know. Then when you do want to actually say no, they don't know how to act. So I think you got to sprinkle some, it may be a little toxic, but I think you got to sprinkle some no's in there, to somebody, and I think that balances the relationship out. So definitely, I'm not going to say yes all the time. You're going to hear a no from me, even if it's something that's within my power to do. You're going to get a no from me sometimes. It can't always be, I'm the person you're always going to. You need this. I don't care if it's something not even physical. If it's like you always need my time, you always need something from me. You're always calling because something's going wrong and you need me to talk it through. Sometimes it's got to be a no, because if I need to fill myself up. And if all I'm doing is outpouring to other people, whether it's financially, emotionally, I gotta say no. And I think sometimes to bring it back to the male and female dynamic in friendships, as men, a lot of us feel like when we're in friendships with women, there is just an innate, in a lot of us, this innate need to take care. It's innate need to provide. And sometimes you have to catch yourself. It's like, whoa, 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 whoa. This is getting to be too much, because now the person is expecting it from you. What you were doing, they're expecting, and now you're feeling like it's taking something from you. And I think this could actually work from women to men, women to other women. It's all around. But I do think sometimes that does happen in male-female friendships for the men, because for us, a lot of us, it's like we want to help you. We see you struggling, or we see something's wrong. You got a situation in your life that we can see like, hey, this is probably not the best. We want to fix it for you. We want to get in there. But sometimes it got to be, nah, I gotta let sis figure this one out on her own.
I definitely hear that. Definitely hear that, Okay, so going back to the original question, actually, there's an original question. So the original question, and by the way, if any ladies who are friends with me, if you're friends with me, you're good friends, I don't mind doing anything for you ladies, so don't worry, because there's only one or two. So the rest of you, you're not my friends. I tell you all the time, okay? All right, if I can't die for you, you can't be my friend. But let me be real. The original question I was asking, in the sense of, do you feel like men are, because I was thinking of it, because I was linking the two things. So basically what I was saying was, I was linking wanting to do, let's say for instance, wanting to be in your pure masculine, support, serve, protect, provide for a woman. This could be a relationship, if you want to call it that, right? And is it that, and I was thinking about that fact that there are some women that pull that out of me and some women don't, right? And I was saying, do men then in general, do they tolerate certain women? Because it's like the Cam situation, right? Sometimes I feel like men tolerate certain women. Like we might like them, but we don't like them enough. So we might even be in a relationship with them, but we don't necessarily like them enough. And then they irritate us. I'm going to be just giving an example. I don't know. It's not just that's an example, right? And there are certain women, when you get with them, you're in a relationship with them, and you don't feel that irritation, or you don't feel like they're annoying or whatever, right? So when they're asking you for something, you don't see it as that. And maybe someone said it, maybe it's a level of gratitude that person has. But I've experienced people being even gratuitous with me, and I still get irritated. It's not because you're not gratuitous. I thought it was. Part of it is. But it's just like, I don't know, maybe it's more personal to me. I don't know. But I'm just thinking to myself, like, I experienced something where I had dealt with two ladies differently. And one didn't even necessarily ask me all the way. But I felt the need to want to help the person. Do you know what I'm saying? Another person, when they did ask me too, I was like, you're even annoying me asking this question. You know what I mean?
A platonic friend, or somebody you were dating, or women you were dating?
Listen, these streets are cold out here, cuz
that's gonna be the difference maker.
They're both people that are dear to me. Let's just say that. They're both people that are dear to me.
Okay, we'll read between the lines. So I think, look, it goes back to initially, what's your intention with the situation, with the friendships, because there's all different types of friendships, we'll say, right? You know, there's friendships that are deep, you know, and there's friendships where, you know, you'll go to the ends of the earth for the person. And then there's friendships that, you know, you guys just might have a good time together. You get together every now and then, you see each other maybe once a year, twice a year, and it is what it is, right? But you just know what it is. And both person, you know, both people get that. So the level of investment you might have for that person than the person that is an active part of your life is going to be a little different. And that other person's energy, likely the people who like pop in and out of your life, they have a different energy, and you keep them there for a reason. You're in each other's lives for a reason in that capacity, because they can give just what they can give to the relationship, and you can do just the same. Now, if that person starts pulling more or ask you something, it's kind of like, I probably am not going to be that, you know, inclined to do it, because I know what this is. On the other end, when this person, you're like, you ask me, I got you, because you know what that is, right? And it's a different level of a relationship. So I think in our minds, we're always running a calculation with people. And that may be the logical man mind part. I don't know. But we're always running calculations. So it's like, okay, if you're over here, this is where you are. I can deal with you here. But if you're over there and you start to try to pull me in this different direction, I might be less inclined to go where you want me to go.
Could be, you know, could be. I'm thinking, you're right. You're right. But I guess I'm thinking in my head, I was thinking, and you guys can, you know, chastise me a little bit here. I'm thinking in my head, you know, as well, you know, let's say let's say I'm dealing with two different people, right? And let's say I have, you're right, there are two different interests, right? One I've got a further interest in, another one I haven't necessarily got as much of an interest in. But I find myself still doing stuff, like maybe now more than when I was younger, right? Like doing the basic foundational stuff, right? Like you may say, for instance, let's say, for instance, it's an example, it's not happened, but let's say it's an example. You say your car broke down. I would be like, okay, let me call an Uber to come and get you from where you are and take you home, right? And I might do that for both women, but one will irritate me when I'm doing it. And I'm like, it's annoying to me. And the other, I'll be like, I don't mind doing this. I really don't mind doing this. If anything, let me add the Uber and add something on top of it so that you make sure you're safe and good. You know what I'm saying?
Your toxicity is creeping in, Kojo. Toxicity alert.
Listen, I think only you can answer these questions. You know, you have to find out what's going on. What is the difference?
I mean, and maybe I need, you know, maybe this therapy that needs to be happening and going to therapy. But I don't know. It's, do you know what it is? Okay, so normally I can't say this what it is. I think mindset. Oh crap, mindset partly, right? Is I value people's independence, right? So let's say one lady, she can do it if she needs to do it. It's not that she can't do it. She can do it. She doesn't need me to do it. You know, someone's saying to you. But I do it because I'm like, I know you could do it, but I got you. You know what I'm saying? I want you to know that I got you. Like, you're cool. And she will reciprocate that to the highest standard. Probably even more than I could actually do it back. Do you know what I mean? So it's like almost in a sense, not in the competition, almost like in a sense of like, I really don't count the costs when I'm doing that kind of stuff. And maybe someone else, I'll be like, I feel like Sean, you kind of actually maybe touched on it. I'm starting to see there's a little bit of dependence, and not necessarily like the person's even trying to depend on me, but I'm trying to, hey, don't get dependent now. You know what I mean? Because don't be trying to hey, you get a little bit closer. You're trying to, you know, I feel like you're gonna make me a dependent person's position. Maybe that's part of the trauma, part of the attachment side that I have. I don't like that, right? Whereas the other woman's like, I've got it, I can handle myself if I need to. Then I'm like, okay, well, if you can handle that's cool. I'm not doing it because I want you to be dependent. I'm doing it because I want to do it. Do you know what I'm saying? So maybe that's the difference I'm seeing. How about that, boys?
Marry the first one.
Jay, you went too far, too fast. Come on, you know Kojo by now. You can't throw marriage out there. You're gonna run him off down the streets.
There's one more month
Screaming.
left. One more month, and he's ready.
Marriage, he can't even settle down. He can't even commit to being in a situationship, let alone. Slow down, Jay. Slow down.
You know. So you're saying marry the first one. Why are you saying that from your perspective?
Because if the other one is irritating you, she's not going to stop irritating you. She's triggering, as you're mentioning, those trauma responses in you. That's not a good matchup. Because there's a reason why she's attaching herself to you in this particular way. In fact, that reason doesn't even matter. It's just the reason why she's doing it. So with the first one, I would say you like your independent women. You like a woman who is able to do certain things that you can just share, share your heart, just open up. I want to do these things to you. You know what I mean? But some men like the opposite. Some men want the second woman, So I think what you're doing, you're identifying what you actually need or what you actually like, what makes you feel comfortable. So although I'm joking around saying marry her, I just think the perspective is if these two women are two women that you're thinking about, they could be a possibility. I would never suggest go for the second one. And the reason being is because that's always going to be an irritant. And it's not about whether she's a good or a bad person. I'm sure she's great. But the woman who is not an irritant, there's a reason for that. And I think that's something that you need to explore in yourself. I won't even say a lot more because you do that anyway, but that's something to explore within yourself to get to the bottom of it. Because, one day if you get with a woman, there might be things where she does rely on. Yeah, that's it. There may be things where she does rely on you upon. I mean, you're going to be with her. You're going to be in a marriage. A woman wants to be able to depend on a man and rely on a man. So you just have to make sure when those things happen, those are not triggers for you to either go into sabotage mode or run.
So I'll
Thank
say
you, Jason.
that, I know we're going to scare you into seriousness, so I'll go another route. I think you need to let the one go that you're least invested in so you can make room for the next one, that could be another potential for you. Because if you're holding on to something that you're really not feeling it 100%. Because if she can agitate you by the simple suggestion of something, you just need to set her free. And then the next one could come along and maybe it's number one, or maybe it's another number two or number three or number four, or however many you want to have in your stable, but I don't think you should hold on to that, because I think that is a sign that she needs to be cut loose, because that annoyance is only going to build, and then it's going to turn into, other things. And then you're going to do things to her intentionally to make her go away. And nobody wants that.
No, you're speaking some truth there. I think, no, I mean, listen, you guys saw some truth, and I think with the situation with, and again, I'm all trying to observe myself, right? So actually, it's less about relationship and more about observing myself. Because a few months ago, I was talking to another woman, and what I really liked about it is that she trusted me so much to take the lead. And I was with that. I didn't mind the dependence from her angle. I kind of liked it, you know what I mean? And I responded well to the trust that she gave me to lead the relationship. Even though it wasn't a relationship, that's her perspective. And then I met someone else. I'm like, but now I value this particular person's independence, their willingness to want to do things on their own and get it done. And so it speaks to that part of me. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know if I need to find a balance, or whether there are different parts of women that respond to me. But the one that obviously was very independent, I just love the fact that she was also a server too. She served very well. She, like, if you need something, she gonna make sure you get it, right? And make sure that you're good. You know what I mean? If I'm stuck somewhere or whatever, she'll be like, do you need a hotel? Do you need to grab this for you? Like, she's already thinking ahead to try and make sure that I'm good. And I think that for me is a powerful thing. You know what I mean? And I guess from my perspective, there's almost too many things that I can respond to, and it's almost like sometimes overwhelming. But you know, I appreciate that young lady, because she's opened my eyes to something else, another angle, another point of view of seeing things. But I really did appreciate the fact that if I go somewhere, she'll make sure like you're good, she'll make sure this is taken care of, make sure like I never think so when I'm returning the favor, and I don't even like calling it returning the favor, I'm not thinking about, is it costing me? Is it, my bank account, is it empty? I'm not thinking any of those things. I'm just thinking almost to a point where, and I think it's only once or twice that everybody felt this. I know that if I give you my last pennies in my account, you'd make sure I'm good. Where other people, I'm like, I'm not sure if I give you my last pennies in my account, whether I'll be good. I'll give you my last pennies in my account, you're going to be looking at me like, what you doing? You know what I mean? And I felt like that person had my back, that in a different way. Do you know what I mean? So maybe that's what I'm kind of, feeling. I don't know. It's just been interesting to kind of observe it from a different perspective. You know what I mean?
Do you know what you just said even reminded me of, I guess, recent situations, and I could even talk about my missus today, right? So there was a person who I was talking to where that dependency would be a thing. She made sure it wasn't there while we was just talking, because, that she didn't want to take the mic, which is fine. I appreciate for that, but use the word overwhelming, and I'll have to say that's a much bigger word than probably how you used it. That overwhelming nature of the expectation is gonna have to be all of this, and if I spend everything, what's that? What's left? Where's that gonna leave us? So, but I'll also say, but that was the expectation back in the day. That was the expectation of us as men. So, it's a situation where, and I always point back to you is like, okay, Coach, you need to figure out what do you want, because even if being with a woman who's independent, I have that now. I have a woman who's independent that can do everything, and I do enjoy the fact that what I'm doing, she can reciprocate, but I still do more. I still do more. I don't think about, it's not like 50-50. I just still do more. Like I love just doing things for her. Let's go on this date, planning this and doing things. But I'm also the person that I am, right? I'm a different person. So I love it. But I fully understand if it was the person before, a lot of it would feel like a burden, because sometimes it can be like, what am I gaining from this? I'm not saying it has to be equal. It's just, it starts to be draining. And I think that's where it is. It starts to be draining. And I think for men and women, when we start to feel drained when it comes to someone, we're not going to have a good time at all, because ultimately, however two people are going to do it, we need to pour into each other. That's why I say that first one, I'm joking about marriage, but that's someone I can say, you thrive when people pour into you just as much as you want to pour into them. You're not going to thrive in a situation where you're the only one doing it. But you have to make sure, because when you get with someone, there are still women who are independent who still want to depend on a man when they get a man. So when that happens and she's asking certain things of you, you have to be able to say, don't worry, babe, I got you, instead of being triggered. So yeah, that's why I leave that, man.
Yeah, listen, bro, you kind of described it perfectly as well in that sense. I think with that young lady who has all angles covered, and I think Soso kind of touched a little bit as well with, that's what I said, maybe part of it is trauma, when there is no expectation, I will raise the bar. So it's like, I know that if you need to cover me, I know you can cover me. Therefore, it's not, and I think that goes back to a trust thing, maybe, and goes back to maybe going back to someone taking advantage of you, you know what I mean? And again, that goes to my attachment style, that, being a dismissive avoidant. We don't trust many people. We're very skeptical of people. So when I'm dealing with this particular lady and we're vibes and just chatting and catching jokes, I never think about anything else apart from the fact that, if anything was happening, I know you got me covered. But I don't need you to cover me, right? And I don't need to cover me, but it's nice to know that you would cover me. You know what I'm saying to you? It's nice to know that also, as I'm serving, you want to serve just as much as well. You want to reciprocate that giving back as well. And there's been times where I even told her, I said, I really appreciate just the little things that you're doing. Like, and it's not an endowment on any other woman or anything. It's just more just to say that I'm now realizing how I'm responding to certain treatment. Because in other places I've been where I've been the giver, and not necessarily being given back. And that's not to say the women were bad again once more. There are dynamics like that where you're more to give up, right? And there are other dynamics where nobody counts the cost of reciprocity in terms of where what you're talking about, what you're doing. You know what I mean? If I go out and I pay for the meal, I'm not saying that I need you to pay for the next one. I might I'll pay for the next 5 or 6. It doesn't really make it. I'm not going to think about it because I know that what you bring to the table in terms of reciprocity. Like if you wanted, if you have shown already that you do things for me, you know what I mean? So I don't think, I just do. And I think that's such a different kind of space to be in. And I appreciate the person for kind of showing me that perspective. And so it enlightened me a little bit to be like, wow, maybe I need to look a bit more deeper into those situations when it comes to relationships, you know what I mean?
Coach, is one of your love languages that you like to receive acts of service?
Funny enough, it's not. My love language is quality time and words of affirmation.
Wow.
Wild. Yeah. But I think in my head, how I see it is if you're willing to serve me, you're willing to give up your time, your energy to do that for me, especially when it comes to money, then I'm like, well, then you should just, I could give you everything. Yeah, I trust you. Because if you're willing to part your ways with your money, why can't I'll just give you everything? I can give you everything. You know what I mean? It almost opens up that floodgate a little bit. So I don't know. It's you know, in that particular aspect, you know, but maybe it's a trusting as well. You know what I mean?
You sure there's not some physical touch sprinkled in there?
No, no. Honestly, it's more the fact that that person's willing to do above and beyond. And maybe because as a kid, and even though it's not my love language, number one, it's actually, I think it's the 4th one, not even the 3rd one. For the physical touch, my 3rd one. But it's the fact that maybe, again, being in relationships with parents, you had to almost like beg to get something. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I didn't want to become a nuisance to our parents. So I stopped asking. So when people do for me, I really appreciate it. That's part of my attachment style. It's like when people do for me, I'm like, wow, you would actually spend your time doing all of this for me. And I appreciate that. Therefore, if you can do that, there's nothing left for me. I will give you everything. No qualms, no question, whatever you want, you can have it. Because if you're willing to do that for me and just give me even that piece of you, then why can't I give it all? Do you know what I mean? I think that's, you know what I mean?
You know, I think in that aspect, right, we are absolutely alike. Because was it last year? Where are you now? 20? Yeah. So last year, so my birthday's in November, right? My missus' birthday's in January. And before my birthday came around, you know, there were plans, things were happening, but she got upset because to her, I was more focused in terms of like the happiness in preparation for her birthday. Whereas she just wanted me to focus on my birthday and enjoy it. You know, she thought, I'm not going to enjoy it, you know, but I said to her, no, I will enjoy it. It just makes me happy to just give you, to just do more. And I realized it's because of how much she was herself willing to, you know, make that a good occasion, make that a good day. Like, and it wasn't about money, it wasn't about anything. It was how much she's willing to pour into me. But that's because I spent a lot of my, what can I say, my relationship life being the person who poured in without much coming back. So this can be to do with trauma, especially with parents. Like my mom was great, you know what I mean? But we can't discount what it does to children. We can't discount what prior relationships do and what that causes. And I can see in the chat, a lot of people are highlighting these things. So when, you know, she's doing these things for me, part of me is like, I can't really react the way I want to because I've had to train myself not to, you know, just to manage my expectations so I'm not disappointed and just, let me just be okay with the minimum. But then part of me says, this woman's amazing. This woman is absolutely amazing. This is what I need. Someone who is willing to pour into me just as much as I'm willing to pour into them. And she knows I got her. Do you know what I mean? When we get married and she says, you know what? I don't want to work. Maybe I just want to start a business. I say, babe, cool. You know what I mean? If we're in a position to do that, let's go. You know what I mean? Like, I'll support you what you need to do. She wants to start a ministry. She wants to do that anyway. I'm like, you have my full support. Let's go. Like, she's already showed me coming into it. Even with my ministry, she's willing to be behind the scenes supporting. And I think where we are in that is that that's kind of what we need. you know, where we can do the other things, where we just completely provide, completely do all of that. We can do that. But there is an aspect where we don't feel that we're being poured into and we're just being drained that irritates us. So I think we're quite liking them.
Yeah, bro, you touched on the word still. Sean, I don't know if you want to enter something, go for it.
Yeah, no, I was just saying there's some great conversation around like the different love languages and how they trigger us too, because sometimes if we're not ready for love, and I think that's where you are, not to quote the show, right? But you're not quite ready for love. Sometimes when somebody touches on our actual love languages, or they're trying to pull from us something that we're not ready to give, it pushes us away. So I think that definitely happens, and some people do it with force, and then some people do it with the level of grace. And I always think that people do it, that the people that do it with a level of grace always wind up in a better position. They may not get the outcome that they want necessarily, but it's going to be an easier transaction, for lack of a better word. It's always when somebody exercises it with grace, or suggest, or kind of just put something out there, but it's not like, I need you to do this, or there's a level of expectation coming from you. I think that is always, it's a lot easier pill to swallow. And I think that's what you're running up against in the situation, whatever the situation is, and whatever the actual components that are happening. There's something that person is doing that is repelling you. And I think that's why my initial assessment is that you need to go away from it, because don't keep pressing in, because it's telling you something. I don't know what the something is, but it's telling you something. And for me, I think you probably just need to back away from it, because it's not going to bring out the best in you, and it's not making you feel at ease. It's not making you feel comfortable.
Yeah, 100%. I'm not gonna lie to you. But yeah, no, yeah, and you're absolutely right. And that's actually why I want to do a video on Monday talking about it, right? Because I think I'm not the only. I think there's a lot of men who end up in relationships like this because I'm willing to do the basics and kind of peter my way through the situation, right? Especially if you're ready to settle down and you just want to, as quote men might say, build a legacy real quick. You see time's running out, you want to settle down. You might just settle down with somebody, and then after the dust settles, you realize you don't even like the person. But back to what you were kind of saying there, Jay, as well. I think that's a really big thing. And this is less about other women. Again, like I said, it's not about what other women have done. I think it's more about what that individual person was doing, which is what the person's actually doing. So what actually has been happening, what's been doing, is that person's willing to fill me up, right? And I'm like, yo, that's kind of crazy. You know what I mean? That somebody would want to back me to that highest hill. You know what I'm saying to you? And so it's crazy to have somebody who backs you up, who I think, because again, we never really experienced that from young, and always had to have your own back. That when someone kind of like,
Coach, you're frozen again.
They got him. 1 and 2 got him on the line. They're like, am I 1 or am I 2? I need to know right now. Who's 1 and who's 2?
It's all good, but yeah, wait for him to come back because he was getting somewhere good. But
yeah, I think we were getting to the crux of it.
Yeah, I mean, because what you're saying is real. What you're saying is real. And for the women on this chat, this is where you understand how trauma can affect men too, in the same way, where they may become distrusting of someone, where they might feel they need a bit more. Go, Code. Let's carry on.
yeah, no, sorry. I was just saying that it wasn't very long, but just saying, obviously, it's appreciated when I think someone goes above and beyond. I think because I'm so used to being above and beyond for other people, or at least being so solo, that when someone is willing to go gun ho for you, and willing to, push you and to also invest in you. I think you said pour into you. And it's funny because I was speaking to my friend about the situation. She was like, you don't allow people to pour into you. So when someone just kind of almost overrides that, overrides that perspective and they pour into you, then it's so different. You know what I mean? It's so different when someone's willing to override that and go, I see that you can do it yourself too, but I'm gonna override that and I'm gonna pour into you as well. You know, a bit like what you were saying about your birthday. When someone serves you from a place of, I want you to be so as happy. How do I say this? When someone serves you from a place where you're like, how do I say it? I think when when I serve people, I think to myself, I just want to see you happy. A bit like what your girlfriend said, right? Sorry, fiance. I just want to see you happy, and it's all about you. You know, I just want to see. That's my main objective. When you get someone who equally returns that favor, that all they're thinking about is just you solely, it's a different feeling. And I think that's what I felt. You know what I mean?
Can I add this as well, right? Because I know I think the chat is making jokes, but it's positive jokes, so it's all good, right? But I think in life, some women can misunderstand. Like in marriage, you're supposed to pour into each other. 100%. There may be times where one is less, etc. That happens, expect it to happen, deal with it accordingly. Don't think it's the end of the world, but we are supposed to pour into each other like properly. I think where some of us have had to respond negatively to it is because we haven't had that. You know what I mean? So when we do get that, it does something to us that maybe we might take it too far, or or maybe it's just right. But it becomes more noticeable when people are not doing that, although you may not see it as that at the time, and it starts to be a trigger. That's why I say the person who is pouring into you, it's not even just because it's like, you feel comfortable, but that's what it's supposed to be. The woman that you marry is supposed to pour into you to that level. You know what I mean? That's how it's supposed to be. Again, it doesn't have to be equal or the same. But whatever you're doing, you need to feel that she's also pouring into you in the way that she sees best. Like the way I look at it is like, if I'm out there doing what needs to be done in order to bring what I need to bring home, I need her praying for me for my protection while I'm out there doing that. That's my mindset. And if I don't get that, sorry, we can't rock. I'm not even going to play around with that. I'm not even going to, like, my spirit is going to warn me. If I'm still in it, more fool me, because what's going to happen is going to happen. But that's why with my missus, honestly, this is the first time in my whole entire life that I've had this feeling. Before I was making other decisions, but this is the first time in my whole entire life. That's why, to me, she can get the world. Like, honestly, if she says, Jay, I just want to sit at home, put my feet up, do soft life, I'll say, you got it.
I don't mind.
You got it.
Yeah.
Because that's the impact that she's made on me and my heart. And it's like, I can't trade that for nothing. Absolutely nothing. In fact, if you're watching this, let me know if you're watching this. I don't even know if you're even awake, but let me know if you're watching this, actually.
Carnage, I hear you what you're saying. I do. Sean, go for it. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, I want to be where you are, Jay. I'm not there.
I want to be where you are.
I want to be where you are, bro. I want that feeling.
Soon, man.
I'm not ready yet. I'm gun shy. Now, when I was married, there would be nothing, and I think an interesting conversation was like starting in the chat, which I think is good. It's about like the love languages and then what you like versus what you give, and I think there's a difference that now, people talk more about. And I think that's so important, right? Because, for me, words of affirmation are important. And does that mean I'm conscious of my words? Sure. But my primary love language to give is gifts, and quality time. I just love to give that, in relationships. So that's so important to me, even in my friendships. That's something that has spilled over. And I think like we just have to make assessments whenever we're in these different phases of our relationships. And sometimes we got to know, coach, my famous statement, you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And I think you got to know when to hold them and know when to fold them. And as much as I know you're transparent, because I see some of the ladies who may not know you kind of like popping in the chat and a little concerned about, the dynamic that you're talking about. But Kojo, if there's anything, he's honest. He's brutally honest. Now, y'all ladies be trying to, y'all be trying to move his stance, and y'all can stress yourselves out and slide down the wall trying to do so. But he is honest. So I just want to make sure that's clear for anybody that doesn't know Kojo that's watching. You're very honest. You're not out here selling something that you're not going to do, or saying you're in a relationship that you're not, or people don't know that you're moving around. They know. Trust me, they know. And I think that even though that situation is one where the boundaries are kind of like not really there is still emotions and there are still feelings. So I would say there's some level of investment that you're starting to feel and it's causing you to pull away. I'm sure that person on the other hand has a set of feelings too. So if agitation is coming into the mix, it's probably time to know when to fold them, because it's just nowhere good when when people do things organically. We have the ick that's out there. Girls have the ick challenge, and he breathes and I get the ick. He crunches on his French fries and I got the ick. So I think you're starting to get the ick a little bit with her, and I think that's a sign that it might be you might need to just set her free, because it's a sign that it's just you relationally do not work out well. When naturally, if I just do certain things and it just agitates you, and I'm not even doing something that is set up to agitate you, then I need to go away, right? Because people are going to also do things intentionally to get on your nerves. And if they're doing it naturally, they got to go.
Yeah. That situation ain't going to change. And I got a feeling it's been happening for a while.
Maybe. No, I mean, listen, listen, it has been, but it has been. So I think it has been, right? So again, because I was observing myself, I've been observing myself and just kind of like really trying to tap into, trying to understand things, right? Because and the reason why I brought the two people was to bring comparison rather than to highlight there's two people in my life. There isn't anybody in my life. I'm saying I'm highlighting two women who, when they've done certain things for me, how I'm responding back to them when I'm doing something for them. A bit like how the B Simone and Megan situations are also happening, right? About the responses and why I'm responding the way I'm responding. But in all honesty, I guess, I mean, if I wasn't a dating phase, yes, number two has got to go, right? But the key thing I was asking myself was, I wonder if as men, and maybe not you two, because you two seem to be, sensible gentlemen like myself, but, but, to say that, obviously, personally, that I wonder if men go through situations, and I'm not talking about all men, I'm talking about some men, as to why certain relationships don't work out. It's whether they're tolerating certain women and not actually liking them. Because I was asking myself, as I was operating in the two different, let's say the two women I've chosen, for instance, just to bring us an example, the one where I was getting irritated, I was still doing things. So like, if you ask me for something, I'm still going to do it. You know what I mean? That's probably just my character. That's my nature. I guess that's part of me now. And also why I use that as good practice. Because if it's not you, I need to be ready for the person I need to do it for. But, my mind was thinking, I wonder if there are men out there that have tolerated women and married them or dated them for long periods of time, tolerating them. And I say that because I could still do for both people, but my feelings towards both people was considerably different in me acting upon doing it. I can give them both 100 quid, but for one of them, I didn't feel the stress of giving 100 quid. The other one, I felt the stress. I felt the whole £100 leave my whole bank account. So I'm wondering if there are some men out there that have tolerated women, as to why when sometimes situations happen in relationships, rather than just being honest about it and just saying like, actually, I don't like her enough to want to do this thing naturally. Because even with my attachment style, the person that's independent, yeah, it calms my attachment style, but also at the same time, I'm willing to do new things that I don't usually like doing. Like, I don't like doing out my comfort zone. So when that person does that, I'm like, oh, damn, you know what? I'm comfortable doing it. That's why I said I was comfortable doing it. I was like, oh, okay, yeah. Then something's happening here. You know what I mean? So that's what it brought me to. I was like, oh, I wonder if other men are having those experiences, and if they are, we need to have a real conversation about it. Because you're absolutely right. Number two, if I ever dated or married that person, I would kill that person. After a year or two, I would be, divorcing, and you were asking the question why, and I wouldn't be able to tell you why. I'll be like, well, I don't, she'll make me happy. That would be my answer. She doesn't make me happy. When reality of the situation is, I think I was tolerating that person, not that I liked that person enough for it to flow freely without there being you know what I mean, that feeling in that sense. I don't know if that makes sense. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, no, you see that situation so often. And there was this couple on Black Love, I believe, and I saw a clip of it, and they were talking through therapy, and the wife asked the husband, I think they had just had an argument, and the wife had asked the husband, do you like me? Do you like me as a friend? Do you really like me? And he was like, no, I don't.
Wait, what?
And I think, listen, they had just come out, they were like in therapy, or they were like, the Black Love format.
Yeah.
And they were having this like therapy style conversation. Now, obviously, this couple has been to therapy, worked through the issue. It's not always a situation you can't get over, but you have to deal with it. And I think they were just having so many conflicts back and forth, but it was because they had gotten to a point where they just didn't like each other. So everything that the other did bothered them. So the wife, smartly on her end, just stopped at one point and asked, do you like me? And then, plot twist, he turned around and asked her the same question, and she had the same answer. So they were both in a situation where, they were tolerating each other. And I think this does happen. Like men especially will do this because it's not like, and I think it's the same situation in your instance, it's not like there's not aspects of this person, this woman, that you don't enjoy. There are parts of her that you don't enjoy, but there's just something that rubs you the wrong way in some instances. And I think if it's a relationship you're going to invest in, and this one, I'm still saying fold it. But I think with this particular couple that I'm thinking about, they addressed it because they were married, and then they learned, hey, let's do some of those things that we do enjoy, and let's not do the things that we're doing that can be controlled, that is causing us to be in dislike of one another. And I think that's how you can, just because in a relationship, as the longer you're with somebody, the person's going to do something you're going to be displeased about. Kojo, even our little bromance friendship, right? There's a point where you just got sick of my shit. You were like, all right, I'm sick of your shit. I'm jumping out of the car in the middle of DC, and I'm going because I'm tired of XYZ, right? You kind of move things at your own pace. So I think like everybody gets to that point with someone, right? And I think it's what you do and how much you value the relationship to move forward. Now, sometimes it's like we just need to separate because we're completely on each other's nerves and it ain't going to work. Sometimes it's like, hey, is this somebody that has more value than not? And I don't think as men, we've heard the conversation often enough, and we know how to have it in a way that we can either deal with it. I think we rather just push it to the side, and we feel like we're locked and loaded in a situation, so we just stay there kind of begrudgingly until it gets to a point where we have no other choice.
That's amazing, Sean, actually, because while you're both speaking, I had to really think of like my life. Me, I like giving my life stories. I've got stories for days. And I remember being in 2 relationships like this, right? And I remember there was one particularly where first of all, some people don't even realize what they are doing is tolerating, especially if they've been in toxic relationships all the time, especially if they don't understand what love is, not only to receive, but also to give, or how things are supposed to feel. And 100% understand there's going to be a time where you both don't, most marriages would tell you that there was a time where we both thought, did we make the right choice? We're not getting along, we dislike each other, but it doesn't mean that you jump ship. But I'll give you a scenario that happened to me very quickly. I was with a particular girl for about 18 months. And we went to a particular church, and the pastor, we was going through a very tough time, so this didn't just happen out of the blue, what I'm going to say. But I was going through a tough time, and the pastor said, turn to the person that's next to you and tell them you love them. I couldn't do it. And I'm going to be the villain right now. Sorry, ladies. I apologize. I apologize, ladies.
Wait, go back. No. Go back. What did you? What did you say?
Nothing. I couldn't do it.
We need a new villain on the show because I've been a villain for too long. What did you say?
Did you even look at her?
It was like this.
Oh, and what did she do? Did she look at you and say she loved you?
You're gonna. She cried.
Jay. Woo! You could just say you love her in the name of Jesus.
No, because that would have kept me in a... Kojo, what are you doing? So no, because I realized, because of the type of person that she was, it would have kept me in a manipulative situation that I needed to escape from. But I was also manipulating myself. This is why I say I didn't realize that what was going on, because I thought the issues that we're having, everything that's going on, maybe this is what relationships are supposed to be like. That's what I say. Where I'm in now, even the man I am today, and that was over 10 years ago, ladies, okay? So please, allow me. It's completely different than when I was back then. Now, that would even last a couple of days. Maybe a few months, if that, maybe 2 months when I got to know you. But yeah, that's the situation where I realized what I've been doing all this time is tolerating this person. And absolutely in no way do I actually genuinely feel like I'm going to marry this person. So I need to break up with you. And I did say that to her. 100%. I have to be honest.
Not right. Later when y'all got home.
Well, around that time. No, around that time. Because it was a conversation around that time. Because we wasn't even living together. She couldn't understand why I wouldn't want to move in with her and etc.
Okay.
And for me, it's like, I have to be honest with myself. All of this has kind of shown me. And by the way, this was also the time where I gave my life to Christ. So, there was a lot that I was contending with about my future, about my purpose, who should be around me, what type of person should be in my life. I still made my mistakes, but I came to a conclusion that it's not her. This is not someone that's going to help me serve Christ at all. And I had to be real with myself. So that's me being the villain, all right? Okay. So,
This is bad. This is very, very bad.
There's a lot I can say, but I'm not even going to defend myself. Ladies, let me have it. Let me have it. If I describe to you this woman, you'd even ask me why was I with her just because of the way she was, but I'm not going to do that. Ladies, let me have it. Okay?
Why are you crying?
But she was one of them, but not the particular one I'm talking about. I want that, yeah.
I mean, listen, I've pulled a couple of cold-blooded moves in my day, but I think there's nothing that tops that. I mean, look, you were honest, right? You told your truth, as they say. And maybe that pastor, the pastor was preaching to you that day, and that's the message that you needed to transition out.
For what it's worth, it was also the day I gave my life to Christ. I actually went up to the altar and started crying. So,
After that?
Yeah.
Woo, Jay.
Yeah.
That's a story, bro.
I got stories for this. I've given you the 1% version.
not you as a villain and turned your life over to Christ all in the same second, boy.
Listen,
I'm starting to lose faith. I must admit, this stuff is starting to depress me.
I'm I'm always honest, and I just in that situation, one of us, because I'm not saying she didn't feel the same way, but one of us had to be straight with her decision, and it was a very bad toxic relationship. This weren't someone who was, you know, she's one of my worst partners I've ever had. So don't get me wrong. Again, I'm not gonna defend myself here because I don't need to. I'm just gonna take this one, ladies. Let me have it. But if I said to you different things, you'd be like, oh, okay. I don't know why you loved it in the first place, but it's all right. Let me have it. It's all right. Yeah.
I don't care. Okay. That was you, Jay. He was like to her, I don't care. Okay.
So I'm good,
I don't
man.
care. I thought I was. Mine wasn't. We're not even in a relationship. Jay was in a whole 18 months. Just want to put that out there so that he becomes a new villain. Thank you very much, guys.
I've heard worse anyway.
You know,
I've heard 8 years.
But again, see, and so this is why I want to talk about it, because, and it reminded me. That's why I said it went back to the whole Cam and Zadia situation. That as men, we can actually sit in things, and we don't. And this is why women sometimes can come out and say that some men hate them, right? Maybe you won't. I don't think any of us would have ever done some of the things that the worst men do. But in terms of maybe the coldness, right? Because I found myself, like I said, when I was dealing with the person who was irritating me a little bit, right? I found myself going cold. So I found myself detaching. I found myself separating. I found myself like wanting just to be in my own space and not talk and not do this and not do that and not do that. And everything became an issue. And I wanted just to kind of just detach myself from the situation. Do you get what I'm saying to you? So, of course, if men then get into relationships or into marriage and they have that disposition and they're not realizing that they're tolerating not actually liking that person, then this is a real thing that will happen. And sometimes I think this goes back to how sometimes people can stay, especially men specifically, I'm talking about because we're talking about men's panel, but we can stay in a situation for too long and end up, like I said, then things get in the way, right? You end up in a relationship, you end up in a marriage, and then you end up having kids, and then okay, can't quit now because the kids are getting older. Can't quit now because and then things start piling on, and preventing you from making a decision. I'm not saying that the things are the issue. I'm saying we're the issue. But I'm saying that I now see how these relationships get to the end, and the man is just like literally completely detached. He's been a problem from the beginning. He's not been honest with himself about how he truly felt about that person. Because I'm gonna be honest with you, it didn't take me long to find out that person was irking me. It was very early. It was very early, and I would never get into a relationship with a particular person because it's irking me, right? But then I say that when I was a little bit younger, when I was in a particular relationship, I stayed in the relationship even when I knew that this wasn't the right relationship for me. I knew that something wasn't quite right. This relationship, God is telling me, get out, get out, get out. And I'm like, no. And I stayed in it until the other person got the message from God and they got out of the relationship, right? But had we got married, because we was going towards there, had we got married, I would have been in 5 years' time, or maybe even 10 years' time, it might take a little bit longer. I would have been Carnage. You know what I mean? Because at that point in the relationship, I was now beginning to tolerate. You know what I mean? In fact, I was tolerating from the very beginning because not because I didn't like her, she was mad attractive. I can't lie to you. That was fine. But just that the things that were I wanted from the person wasn't necessarily aligning with that person. So I'm being irked in those moments. But then, because of quote unquote sex in those moments when I was with that particular girl, that's what was keeping me a hold of me. Once the sex was taken out of the situation, because we had a period of time where there was no sex for like 5 or 6 months, I finally could see the light. Not only could I see the light, I could actually walk towards the light. I couldn't when I was having sex. I'll be honest with you, in that situation, right? With a previous ex. So once the light came in, I was able to go, I don't need to be here. I really don't need to be here. I don't need to be in the situation. And I need to really walk away. You know what I mean? So I think for us as men specifically, that's why I wanted to ask that question. I think, do you tolerate or do you like this person? because that natural wanting to do something for that person should be there. I should want to do stuff for you. I should want to serve you without thinking about what am I going to get back in return. I should not think about, oh, I think you're taking advantage of me when, you know, I'm doing something for you. You know what I mean? So if I'm having those thoughts, then I know already, we got a problem here. I don't like you as much as I think as I like you. You know what I mean? If sex wasn't involved, would I still want to do these things for you? That's a real question. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
Coach, I think you're touching on something, and I think it's true that men we do tolerate because, and I think a lot of women might be shocked about this, or maybe not, but we don't like to be alone. We enjoy the company of a woman, and a lot of times we want it on our own terms. So it doesn't mean we want the marriage or want whatever you may want, but we like the company. So we are willing to tolerate certain things so that we have the company of them. And I think that will push us to accept things that maybe we don't necessarily want, and not be completely honest, because we don't know. I don't think we really are good at breaking up with women. We're not really good at having those tough conversations with women. So we rather avoid it. And I think that you brought that example of Cam. He knows that he and Zadia are not meant to be. They don't want the same things, and he's still all over the place in some regards, right? But he's like kind of giving her little bits, but he's not just saying it outright to release her. And then she's hanging on to the little bits because she sees that he's a good guy in her eyes. And I think men will do that. A lot of men will do that. Even Donald is doing that to Ashley the same way, where he done told this woman that she's healed. He knows she's not healed, you know. But men, we will do that. We will say the things because we don't want to really just go all the way there. Mizell did it too. He played that game where he really wanted find Vernisha, but he couldn't be 100% honest with her. And I think men do that because Mizell wanted the company of Vernisha, so he couldn't be honest. And he wanted to tolerate. I don't think he all the way is invested in her, because when a man is fully invested, he's going to really be honest. But he wanted an aspect of her. And I think men, unfortunately, we do that too often because it's hard for us to have those tough conversations.
Let me make myself more a greater villain based on what you're just saying. So I know, because you're licking your lips, you're like, yes, Jay, yes, Jay. So to give context here, again, I'm not going to talk bad about her. Ladies, let me have it. I'm not going to do that. Unless some of you ask me, but I'm going to focus on me, right? Just ladies, let me have it. So in that situation, she spent 6 months, I guess you can say, trying to convince me to be with her, so to speak. And I'm going to use that very strongly because I was saying no in the beginning. Now, I genuinely thought maybe things would get better. Maybe, you know, things would change if we got together. Maybe the issue is that we're not together. So I said, cool. Now, I 100% acknowledge I did not like her in the way that I should have at that time. This was over 10 years ago, all right? At that time. But who I was at the time, I didn't have the understanding of love, relationships, all of that stuff in the way I did now. And that's my specific thing. So this is how we got together. And the toxicity continued. I'm not saying I was just a toxic one. You know, if I start telling you about fake pregnancies, you know, pretending again, I'm not going to start talking about, you know what I mean? So there was a reason why I got to that place, because I said, I can't fully give myself to someone who is like this. you know, my beard, you can see it's all jet black. If I was with that person, it would be fully grey. You know what I mean? But I'm not trying to talk back too bad about her, right? But that's how I got into that situation, right? Because I said, okay, maybe things will get better if I get with her. And do you know what? I don't want to be alone right now. Why not? You know, you never know. And even women go through that situation. Why not? You never know. Sometimes friends encourage you. You never know what's going to happen. But that was just my situation. And it just lasted that long because that's how long we were trying for. You know, there wasn't a moment where we broke up until the end. And then I broke up with her. Then she did what, you know, what some women do to try and get a man to come back. And then I fought right into it, you know, so I dived into it. And then, you know, then it just had to come to a place where I was like, okay, now I need to be real now because this is my life. Like I want to give my life to Christ. So I've got to think about my future, what I'm doing. My perspective needs to change, you know. And so what is it? And I remember saying to her, I want to revisit a conversation, but I want to go to church first. And, you know, I want to spend my time with God. And then that's kind of what led up to that point. But it wasn't a surprise at all. It wasn't a surprise. It was just that she was someone that was used to walking away from guys. She wasn't used to guys walking away from her, you know. And, you know, I won't even say she loved me like that anyway. I mean, she got back with her you know, one of her child's fathers to have a kid now. Do you know what I mean? So I read in between the lines of what was going on. But, you know, it was just for my own situation. I just had that was my villain moment. I'll receive it. That's my villain moment where I just had to be honest. I'm not going to sit there and lie in church. Lie and then go and tell her afterwards, yes, I didn't mean that. That's worse. So that was my moment to tell the truth and if anything, escape.
You know what? You know, you're spitting some real truths now, right? And, you know, it's good that we've got the men here to be honest about their sentiments.
You're
Well,
loving
especially me
it.
and Jay, because clearly we both out here. But, I mean, there's something to be said about this, right? All jokes aside, there's something to be said about this, which is when you are in that tolerance place, right? So if we're talking about getting into a relationship with somebody, right? I want to be honest with you. From me, perspectively, and maybe I'll do a bit more deeper research into this. I really do feel that sex is the killer thing right there, right? You take that out, you're gonna know if I'm tolerating you or not. Because once that's gone, will I still tolerate you? You know what I mean? If we're talking about relationship, by the way, guys. So if the ladies are out there, if you're looking for a relationship, you want to know the difference if we're tolerating you, just take the sex out of the situation. You know, maybe some of you shouldn't even start that, but just once that goes out the window, people start to show who they really are. Do you know what I'm saying to you? And whether they really want you in that space or not. But in reality, in reality, you're absolutely right. There is, I think Sean kind of said as well, there's always something we're getting from the situation. So us as men, we do get lonely. We do, you know, as much as men don't want to admit it, we do get lonely. And you said it perfectly, Sean, which is, but sometimes what we want it to be on is our own terms. I do not want you when you want me. I want you when I want you. Okay? So when I call you, you answer the phone. When you call me, I'm gonna choose whether I want to answer the phone or not. That's me tolerating you, right? Because what I'm wanting to do is to only give you one side treatment. When I like you, I'm giving. There's a two-sided treatment here. I give and I also receive. You know, and when I'm in your presence, you see that I'm giving and I'm receiving. When I'm tolerating, I'm controlling the dynamics between me and you because I want I want to stay in the power domain of the relationship. So I'm tolerating you in all aspects, right? So yeah, it's you know, so yeah, so I totally understand that when it comes to tolerance, you know, with men and how we treat women as well. So you will see that we won't want to necessarily you know, go further for you or go the distance for you. You know, and even because I think even little things. I remember situation one girl I had a situation that you know I remember being younger and one thing my parents did brilliantly wrong. Okay, when I say that, it wasn't the worst thing. It's tiny, but when you let's say you go to them right and they're doing something and you say to them, "Mom, Dad, can I just you know I want to just say about this." They're half listening. Huh? I'm not ready to listen to you right now. Go away, coach. Okay, so you just take it on board. Well, they don't tell you, but it was just kind of like they're not really listening. So they're not there, right? And I started realizing I do the exact same thing. At points in time when I get locked into work or something like that. But I realize that I do that when I'm tolerating people. When I'm tolerating people and I get into work mode, I cannot open myself up to people. When I like you though, I'm willing to accommodate space and time. So I'm willing to go above and beyond my normal protocol, right? Or my normal bad habits, if you want to call it that. So I realized that even when you are liking somebody, you tend to go beyond certain points that you wouldn't necessarily go beyond. You expand yourself beyond things that you wouldn't necessarily expand yourself to be. When you're but when you're tolerating people, you tend to go back to your basic natural instincts that helped you survive as a child. And so the things that you did to help you have control in your element are the same things that start to play a role, I feel like, in the situations of people that you're tolerating. Hence why we say to women too, please don't choose us if you know you don't like us. Like if you don't like us, you don't fancy us, please don't choose us, because no matter how safe you are, this gets to a point where the tolerance gets to its reach premium. You've achieved all you want to achieve. You've got your kids, you've got your family, you've got all this now. Now you're free to let the tolerance fully be free, right? And so, you know, that's why I was saying, like, both parts, not just both parts, but talking from the men's perspective, you know, you don't want to be in a space where you're tolerating somebody. I think just again, I think as men, we do need to be honest about it, about our interactions. And if you are going to be dating someone, you're going to be marrying someone, I would suggest that if you know you feel irked, this ain't the relationship you want to go into, I would leave it alone. You know, I'll leave it alone. Someone asked if the tolerance happens after sex. It absolutely does. Not all tolerances. I think most tolerance you can tell before then. But yeah, go for it. You want to say something, Sean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, maybe swinging back to the original topic, maybe it's likely Jeezy tolerated Jeannie Mai until he couldn't, and then that's where we are today. It's like I think that happens, you know, and I think again sometimes we get lured in by what we think we can change. And I think sometimes for us men, and we're gonna, you know, some of the ladies gave us feedback that we need to talk more about us and use ourselves as examples. I think, and I've been guilty of this too, is you see something in a woman, right? And although, you know, everybody has something, right? Nobody's perfect. I'm definitely far from it. But we see something and we're kind of like, I don't think that, it's just kind of like stands out. I don't think that's going to work. But I think we convince ourselves that we can put our stamp and we could be the one to do it. I think men like to be trailblazers in that capacity, especially in our relationships. And sometimes we convince ourselves that we can be the one to do it. And I think Jeezy did it in this instance. I think he was the one. And then obviously Jeannie did some reinforcement of that and how she's submissive and did that whole blah, 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 you know, performance that she did. And I think sometimes our tolerance can go longer once we start convincing ourselves like, oh, we're getting something in exchange, or we feel like the person is going to evolve more to what we want. If it's sex, right? You know, we're going to do the exchange of, there's kind of like this quid pro quo where we're like, oh, I'm getting this, so I can tolerate that. So sometimes sex is the exchange. Sometimes, you know, the way the person makes you feel is an exchange. Sometimes it's that woman's, you know, if she is attractive to other men and now you have her, that's an exchange. So I think we do this quid pro quo, and that makes the tolerance go longer and longer when in a lot of instances we know we need to move on.
Yeah, and there's like you said, there's several different instances as to what people can get out of the situation, as to why people can stay in those situations as well. You know, I think with, you know, I think with a situation, I think looking obviously at, you know, someone like Jeezy, he has an unlimited pool of women he could choose from. So, you know, really and truly, he shouldn't even be in the discussion about tolerating. He should not be tolerated because champion, you have a lot. But I think sometimes what happens is also as well, I think also sometimes what happens, like I said, we lie to ourselves. I generally do think we lie to ourselves. There are aspects, like I'm coming to a real place in my life now where I'm really starting to be really honest. Of course, I like to be honest, but I mean being honest with myself. You know what I mean? Not just honest in terms of telling you what my brain is thinking or how deep I can get in my mindset, but really honest with myself. And the only way I could do that was when I started coming back to realign myself with emotions. I'm still learning that, and it's very difficult. I didn't realize how difficult it was. Even though I can be quite empathic, it doesn't mean that I'm aligning myself with emotions. So when I deal with traumatic past or traumatic events in my past, or even deal with traumatic events happening to me, I don't attach emotion to the situation. I completely detach the emotion from the situation. You know, and you know what's interesting about that is that when I when I start to align my emotions with events, I start to realize, oh, this is me being my true honest self about how I actually feel, because a lot of times I'm numb. And I think because obviously a part of my attachment is dismissive avoidant, I think a lot of men also are dismissive avoidant. And so a lot of times they detach their emotions from situations. Sometimes men don't even have the vocabulary to describe what they're actually feeling. So sometimes they're feeling things and not having no words to describe what they're feeling. And then sometimes we reject how we're feeling because what we're feeling feels like we're being weak in that moment or too vulnerable in that moment. And so what happens is a whole bunch of confusion starts to take place. And we date from a place of confusion. And so we try to quiet all the noise that's going on rather than actually healing ourselves. So when we're making choices when it comes to women, we're making it from a place of noisiness. And so it's not from a still quiet place, from a noisy place. And I think, how do I say? I think for us as men, for me specifically, sorry, let me say me specifically, I think I need, you know, that time to really align myself with my emotions again. You know, to realign myself with my emotions again, to be honest with how I'm actually feeling, because tolerance is also a part of the feeling, right? When you're starting to feel irked, when you're starting to feel frustrated, when you're starting to feel some type of way, when you're starting to feel like, you know, you're getting annoyed, you have to be able to identify those emotions. You have to be able to understand them, process them, and then be able to express it. And so that you can actually act upon it. And that can be very difficult if you're not in tune with your emotional self. And this is why sometimes as men, we can cause carnage because we're not willing to want to be a part of our emotional self, or willing to learn how to grow that aspect of us so that we can actually be better partners or better friends or whatever in the situation as well, you know?
Thanks for that, Kojo. And what you said is perfect, because that you're describing who I was back then, you know, in this particular circumstance, and even throughout, you know, because again, I still made those mistakes, you know, in terms of my choices after that. Like I said, I've been married, so, you know, so it's interesting for me to say that it's this relationship I'm in now, and I just turned 37. This is a relationship of first for me, where I can truly like feel like, okay, for the first time, I'm truly able to be myself, truly able to express how I feel about many things unapologetically, you know. And so is my missus with that. And it's amazing, you know, we could have very tough conversations and still, you know, 5 minutes later, you know, we could still be kissing each other's face off. It's, you know, it may be that deep when we're having it, but the maturity, you know, the emotional maturity, let me say, is you know, on a level that I've never had before. And that is something that means a lot to me as a man, because as I, you know, for some of you who are new, you know, I said back in the day, I used to minimize certain things, you know, I used to minimize my emotions. I used to minimize certain things that were happening to me in order to be understanding, or in order to, you know, I got to show that I care, or this ain't it. And my growth as a man has given me so much of a different perspective, or in fact, let me use a different word, of an improved and better perspective of life in terms of what I'm supposed to be doing, what I'm supposed to be in. So therefore, I would never make those choices, you know, again in my life. Like, I would never allow myself to be, you know, in those situations. No, Haitian Empress, I was never actually someone that used to use women. Every single woman I've been with would actually say I was their best relationship, even that person I'm talking about. And this is things that they said to me in their feedback. So, you know, it's not my opinion. It's just what they're saying to me, because they all try to come back as well. It was just that in my aspect, I realized I was being with the wrong type of women that I should never have been with, women who were never going to pour into me or do things for me in a way that I would do for them. I was trying to be the hero. I was trying to be the knight in shining armor. I was trying to, what's the word that you use, Kojo? Build a bear boo. That's the word. There you go. That's what I was trying to be, you know. So I had to understand, why am I doing these things and putting myself in these situations? So yeah, so what you said, bro, is such a, like I say, like you, like, we're quite similar in a lot of sense. You know, we always have our differences, but when we speak even offline, there's extreme similarities between our upbringings and these different circumstances we've been in, right? So I get you. And it's just, yeah, it's just a perspective. And I can understand some ladies are not used to men like being this open and honest about what we go through, but you'll be surprised in some of the experiences that you've had as ladies, the reasons that are truly behind why men have treated you a certain way, or, you know, why they've done certain things. Okay, I'm just reading Dahlia's message. If you have a coach, can you bring up? %1,000%. How could I not? How could I not? You know, I was talking to my pastor the other day, and he was making jokes that, you know, if we realize certain things as men when we were born, I'm sure we would try to implement these certain things in the beginning, you know, from day one. But we don't. We have to be taught. So I've got 2 daughters, so I teach them certain things about men, about women, about life, etc., about managing expectations. If I had a son, trust me, I would raise him based on who I am as a man today. That's what I'm going to impart onto him, you know. And I want to make sure how he sees that in application towards his mother as well. You know, that's equally as important. I want him to see how I deal with that in my business dealings, you know, and how I am when it comes to faith. So 100%, you know, that type of man that I used to be, I will never tell any man, I will never teach my sons to be that type of man. Like, I'm not even a man that looks at sleeping as much women as you can do as like a, I don't see that as it makes you a man anymore. You know what I mean? So I would never encourage my son to focus on those types of things. You know, I'll just say those things will destroy you, mate. So yeah, the growth, that's it. That's what we all have to experience as men, you know, growth. Yeah, that's it, man. We got to do our job. So unfortunately, we go through what we go through as the lesson in order to teach us. So it's part of life, man.
And I mean, I see in the comments too, it's like, yes, are there certain instances where somebody is blatantly going out of their way to use somebody? 100%. But I think in most of the scenarios, especially as we are, you know, navigating different relationships and very early on, we're just operating in terms of how we were brought up to operate in relationships, whether it's a combination of our environment, what we've seen from our parents, and things of that nature. So it's not like they're intentionally, you know, trying to take advantage of somebody, but it happens. And I think it happens on both sides, because naturally we as human beings, when we enter in a relationship, we want something from the other person. And it's only when one person doesn't give what the other person wants do they ever get called out, right? You know, like women want a man to marry them, but he may not want to marry them. Now, if that man goes along and marries them, nobody says that woman took advantage of him to get him to marry her. They just say, hey, she wanted to get married. He knew what it was and they got married. But in a lot of instances, we go back to this tolerance, whether it's lack of knowledge, whether it's just not self-awareness. Some men will go into these situations and then others will try to get what they want out of it. So the woman wants marriage. I don't want to get married. So I'm going to use as much as I can to get her to move to where I want her to move. And she's going to do the same. So we're doing the same thing to each other. So it's not like we're abusing each other. We both have an end. I don't want to get married. She does. She's doing her thing to try to get me to do it. But from the woman's perspective, what's wrong with being married? That's a great thing. This is how we should do, right? So we convince ourselves that just because we're pulling somebody along to be married, it's not a bad thing per se. So I think, listen, I'm not saying we should just intentionally go out there knowing and drag somebody along into something that they don't want to be in. I'm just saying, just before we just kind of nail people to the cross and say, oh, they're just abusing people. No, people are just naturally trying to get their ways. And it takes us having conversations like this, being self-aware and being able to have the conversation like, hey, listen, should I do the right thing? More often than not, the answer is yes. And just be honest with this person that I'm not going to be able to give them what they want. And just stand firm on it. Back to the Cam situation, right? He knows he can't give her what he wants. And just stand on it. But I think it's as a man, sometimes he probably doesn't want to lose access fully to Zadia. So that's his own selfishness that wants to hold on to her. And then 2, it's hard to deliver that message to Zadia. Right? A woman like Zadia, it's hard to just do. She's beautiful. She's got a strong personality. It's going to be hard to completely break up with her. So men find themselves in this situation and they don't know how to break it off. And then what happens is that's when you throw in somebody gets pregnant. Now, so the plot thickens. It's not just that, oh, he's intentionally making baby daddies. Things happen and people aren't always as honest as they need to be. And I think as men, we're getting better. I think we're evolving. We're learning the language. We're learning the signs. We're getting to be better in tune with ourselves so that we can know when to just create the ending when it needs to end or not even get into the situation. But I think it does take a level of self-awareness.
Which I'll say to defend women. Unfortunately, a lot of men don't have that. A lot of men are still lacking behind when it comes to that. And even in our old age, still creating these messy situations. And on top of that now, this day and age, trying to justify them, instead of just growing up. So, yeah, so I can empathize with women in that sense in terms of at least the men that they're around or that they hear. And, good men who know how to manage themselves properly being far and few between.
I mean, listen, some of it comes with maturity, some of it comes with time, some of it comes with experience, and some it just never comes for some men, But for those who get it, sometimes you need a few experiences, sometimes you need a few situations, sometimes you need a few more conversations that happen that just grow you and mature you in a better place. And yeah, there's just a lot of work that needs to be done to unlearn bad behavior, bad habits, and stuff like that. But I think this, this conversation has been quite insightful. I've learned some stuff in here, and I hope the ladies have learned some stuff too, because I think it's been a really, really deep conversation. Yeah, Jay.
Yeah, man, this is I wasn't expecting this one. The first conversation was cool, but this one I actually like it. Delving into the mind, behaviors. Especially making it personal. I think I can even see how, let's say, the atmosphere of the room changed in the chat. So I can see a lot of ladies, I guess, at least appreciate the honesty, the male experience. So some will feel like, okay, it's not too different than some of our experiences. But again, there's plenty of other differences. So yeah, man, thank you, bro. Thank you for throwing it in there, because that's a great conversation, because I still have to talk to, like, say, my female friends about a lot of this stuff when it comes to men, to give them perspective, simply because they're they're not at a stage where they just accept it, or just call a spade a spade. They are also trying to manipulate themselves into thinking a particular way, and it's not helping, right? So yeah, so I do appreciate these types of conversations, man, because yeah, it's needed.
Well, I'll let Sean do the honors because he's the one, our resident deacon. He does the wrap ups.
I don't even know. I think we just took so many
Global
turns. I don't know.
Global deacon.
What did we even start with? Oh, okay. So, I think we had a great discussion, and I think first and foremost, shout out to the women, and the audience that listened, gave feedback, told us when they felt we were wrong, and allow for a great dialogue to happen. I think that's the best takeaway, and I think that's the best thing for relationships. And that is to hear each other out, whether it's unpleasant or pleasant news. Allow the person to speak. Allow the person, your partner, to hear, to speak and to be heard, and allow for an opinion that maybe you don't want to hear to be heard, because out of that, good things can come, right? Because it's what you do next, with the information, and that's what communication is about, right? It's having open dialogue. It's not just being verbal, but it's listening and receiving. So don't make rush decisions. And lastly, get all the information, have all your facts before you you put your stake in the ground. We want to have all the facts before we pick a side. Back to you, Coach.
Yeah, no, appreciate that. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Sean. Ladies in the chat, thank you as well for your contributions. We disagreed, we agreed, we battled, we've laughed, and it's been fun. I can't lie to you. So really appreciate it, and we're preparing ourselves for 2024 because the men's panel will be back. But, we really do appreciate, you guys tuning into the impromptu live as well. And I think it's important. The reason why, because I really want to have more conversations amongst men as well, because I think it does help to give a different perspective, but also as well just to kind of give you an insight into to men and how we think. And even the men held me accountable. You saw that as well. So you see that aspect too is really important, right? As well for us as men to be held accountable, including myself. Nobody's above reproach. No one's above being told what can be done better. So yeah, it's been fun, and 2024 will be back in full flow. But we'll keep doing these things. There's gonna be more topics, so I'm sure there's gonna be more we can do. It probably be done a little bit earlier though, guys, because I want to be able to get the UK and the US to come together. So I will do a bit earlier because we have work in the mornings, for the UK them people, it's 12 for them. But yeah, no, it's been good. So audience, thank you so much. We'll keep tabs on some of the other topics that are going on in the situation. We'll find out if Jeannie and Jeezy have more situations going on. But we'll definitely talk about some more stuff in the coming weeks as well. So look out for those panels as well. Okay. All right. Someone said because you did attack them, Sean. That's because Sean is an evolved man. Okay. He's an evolved man. That's our deacon. Okay. Our deacon. All right. Yeah, so we've got to appreciate you, Deacon. All right, audience, thank you so much. We're gonna appreciate you, and we'll see you again very, very soon. Much love, much appreciation. We'll be back tomorrow for Ready to Love panel. So see you then as well, guys. Much love. Bye bye.